Chapter 153. Gathering information. Witnessing this scene, Jiang Paihuan's eyes revealed a smile, and so did Lin Minglan's. Before Lin Xingqian could say anything, she ran up to him and said with a smile, "Brother Xingqian, can you help me apply the medicine?" The little girl smiled and pulled her wound, causing her to grimace in pain. Lin Xingqian had originally wanted to remain stern, but seeing the wound on the young girl's face, he opened the medicine bottle and poured out a bit of ointment on his fingertip. Gently, he applied it to the corner of the girl's mouth. Although the wound at the corner of her mouth still hurt, Lin Minglan's eyes were filled of smiles. Seeing the smile on her face, Lin Xingqian could no longer keep a cold face. He lowered his head to look at her and said in a low voice, "They'll think of a way to send you home, but you can't tell anyone that you saw me, understand? Brother Xingqian, aren't you coming home?" Hearing his words, she reflexively asked. But upon hearing the girl's words, the warmth in Lin Xingqian's eyes disappeared in an instant, replaced by sternness. He looked at Lin Minglan coldly and said softly, "That place is no longer my home." After saying this, Lin Xingqian walked away without looking at Lin Minglan again. The little girl still wanted to say something, but Jiang Peihuan held her hand. "Little girl, you are a smart child. You should know what to say and what not to say." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Lin Minglan looked at Lin Xingqian and finally nodded. "Brother Xingqian, don't worry, one won't tell anyone I've seen you. But, will I be able to see you again after I return home?" As she said the last sentence, her eyes were filled with tears. Seeing the look in her eyes, Lin Xingqian nodded. "We will meet again in the future." He would have to return sooner or later, once he reclaimed what was rightfully his. Upon hearing these words, Lin Minglan's eyes filled with smiles again. "Huan Air, the clothes have been removed." At this point, Jiang Changbai had already stripped the two men of their clothes and dragged their bodies into the corner. Taking the clothes from Jiang Shangbai's hands, Jiang Peihuan said softly, "One want to go out and gather some information and check out the terrain here." As she spoke, Jiang Peihuan began to put on one of the clothes. Seeing this, Jiang Changbai said directly, "Then I'll go with you." As he spoke, he began to put on another set of clothes. Although these were clothes that had just been taken off from a dead person, whether it was Jiang Changbai or Jiang Peihuan, they were both people who had been to the battlefield, so they did not care about these at all. Just as Jiang Changbai was about to put on the clothes, they were snatched away. He looked up to see Xiaonani putting on the clothes. The corners of Jiang Shangbai's mouth twitched. He couldn't help but look at Xiaonani and say, "Your Highness, isn't this inappropriate? With many people here, in case of any emergencies, you should stay here to protect them. As for Peihuan, one will protect her." Anticipating what Jiang Changbai wanted to say, Xiaonani spoke first. At this time, Jiang Peihuan had already put on the clothes. She tied up her long hair. In the night, no one could easily recognize her identity. Xiaonani stood by her side. They exchanged a glance and left the woodshed together. Watching them leave, Jiang Changbai was filled with frustration. If it were anyone else, he could have beat them up, but he couldn't lay a hand on Xiaonani because of his status. Plus, even if he tried, he might not win. Watching this, Xueqi burst out laughing. Hearing his laughter, Jiang Changbai looked at him angrily. "You're laughing. You didn't even try to stop him just now. You speak as if you can stop His Highness King Cheng?" Upon hearing this, Jiang Changbai fell silent. "Xiaonani, let's go that way." After coming out of the woodshed, Jiang Peihuan pointed to the left. Since there were bright lights over there, she guessed that was the bandits' base camp. Xiaonani didn't say anything. Instead, he took her hand and pulled her behind him to protect her in case of any sudden incident. "You stay behind me." Hearing the man's words, Jiang Peihuan nodded slightly, her eyes showing a touch of warmth. The two of them quietly approached the light source. When they reached the wall, Jiang Peihuan was about to climb up when she felt a force at her waist. Xiaonani held her by the waist, and with a single leap, they were on the rooftop. After sitting down on the roof, Xiaonani removed a roof tile. Through the lamplight, Jiang Peihuan could see the situation inside the house. There were 3 people in the room, and the floor was filled with jewels and jewelry. Some of the things were prepared by Jiang Peihuan's people, and the rest were naturally stolen by these people. Boss were rich this time. The man addressed as boss was the one who had come down the mountain earlier. Seated on a chair, a hint of a smile appeared in his eyes upon hearing these words. With this money, we can live comfortably for quite a while. Right, boss? When is Prince Qing's mansion settling the bill? Upon hearing the words Prince Qing's mansion, Zhang Peihuan pricked up her ears. At the mention of this, the smile in the boss' eyes vanished without a trace, replaced by an unpleasant look. Don't mention it. Our third brother hasn't returned yet. We might not get paid this time. Boss, we have lost so many brothers. Do you think the Qing mansion will dare to go back on their word? Are you stupid? That's Prince Qing, the son of the emperor. As civilians, we can't go against the officials. Besides, don't you know who we are? Upon hearing this, the man fell silent. While Zhang Peihuan was pondering the meaning of their conversation, she suddenly heard a soft noise. Turning her head, she saw a snow-white rat standing before her. Seeing Zhang Peihuan on the roof, the rat widened its eyes and charged towards her. Seeing this, Xiaonani, who was nearby, quickly embraced Zhang Peihuan. Xiaonani, be careful. Don't let it bite you. This was a brocade rat, extremely poisonous. Zhang Peihuan quickly warned. Hearing her, Xiaonani immediately drew his long sword. The brocade rat was impaled by Xiaonani's sword. Looking at the dead brocade rat, Zhang Peihuan felt a touch of pity. The blood of the brocade rat was a precious ingredient for medicine. Who's there? A voice came from below. Then, all three men in the house jumped onto the rooftop. Seeing the brocade rat on the roof, the man called boss had pure anguish in his eyes. How dare you kill my brocade rat? They'll kill you and bury you with it. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 154. Late night fight. As he spoke, the man pulled out his sword, aiming directly at Zhang Peihuan. Because Zhang Peihuan did not have a weapon in her hand, Xiaonani, witnessing this scene, had a cold look in his eyes. You're courting death. With a swift backhand sword grip, Xiaonani's eyes were filled with killing intent. Zhang Peihuan knew that this situation was turning bad, so she pulled out the long whip from her waist. However, Xiaonani was up against three alone, leaving no room for Zhang Peihuan to step in. So, she simply stood by and watched the fight. The sounds of fighting on the roof alarmed everyone in the Shan Mountain village. When she saw the bandits running out, Zhang Peihuan flew down and lashed out with the long whip in her hand. In an instant, the approaching crowd fell. Xiaonani, seeing that Zhang Peihuan could handle herself, didn't come down from the roof. Huanair, you're not fair. You started a fight without calling me. At this moment, Zhang Peihuan saw Xue Qi coming towards her, with Lin Xingqian beside him. However, Zhang Changbai was nowhere to be found. Not seeing her elder brother, Zhang Peihuan couldn't help but ask Xue Qi, Cousin Qi, where is my elder brother? I asked him to stay there and protect those people. Both Xue Qi and Lin Xingqian were rare expert. With their help, Zhang Peihuan felt she was hardly needed. Looking at Xiaonani on the roof, she turned to the two and said, I'm going to help Xiaonani, 111 leave here to you. With that, Zhang Peihuan flew away. When she reached the roof, she saw the gang leader running towards the back mountain. Seeing this, she immediately pursued. Huanair, be careful. People behind her shouted when they saw Zhang Peihuan's actions. Zhang Peihuan didn't respond, but pursued the man in front of her with all her strength. Her lightness skills were not weak, as she had been taught by Zhang Hong himself. However, the man's lightness skill was faster than hers. By the time she reached the back mountain, Zhang Peihuan suddenly realized the man had disappeared. Looking at the quiet back mountain, Zhang Peihuan frowned, but she gripped her long whip tightly, not daring to relax for a moment. There was a slight sound in her ear. Without thinking, she flipped her wrist and the long whip in Zhang Peihuan's hand lashed out. Ah! With a scream, the man fell to the ground. He touched his face and felt the moisture in his palm. His eyes were filled with fury. I'm going to kill you. As he spoke, he charged at Zhang Peihuan. Zhang Peihuan didn't say a word, focusing on her opponent. The man was a skilled fighter, but Zhang Peihuan's skills were honed on the battlefield, so she was more than capable of handling him. But in the midst of the fight, the man suddenly threw a poisonous scorpion. If Jiang Peihuan had not reacted quickly, the poisonous scorpion would have landed directly on her face. But in her moment of distraction, the man's sword was thrust directly towards Jiang Peihuan's heart. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to dodge, the man's sword suddenly stopped. Looking up, Jiang Peihuan saw that a sword had pierced the man's shoulder. Then, with a flick of Xiao Nanye's sword, the man's wrist was cut off. In an instant, the entire back mountain echoed with screams. When Xiao Nani was about to pick up his long sword again, Jiang Peihuan quickly said, "Xiao Nani, don't kill him yet." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nani changed the direction of his sword, but still managed to stab the man in the arm. The man, seriously wounded, did not make a sound after his initial screams of agony. Jiang Peihuan walked up to the man and said coldly, "They'll ask you a few questions. You'd better answer honestly." "Heh." Hearing Jian Peihuan's words, the man sneered. His eyes were full of mockery. Xiao Nani, who was at the side, saw this and flicked his sword, and one of the man's fingers was instantly severed. The man grunted, but he did not dare to speak again. There was a hint of fear in his eyes. Xiao Nani glanced at him and spoke directly, "You better start talking, or I won't mind cutting off your fingers one by one." You're the King Cheng?" Hearing Xiao Nani being addressed this way, the man spoke, his eyes filled with terror. But Xiao Nani didn't respond to him. Jiang Peihuan looked down at the man on the ground and said coldly, "Tell me, who ordered you to kidnap the old Madame Jing of the general's mansion? What were you planning to do with her?" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, the man widened his eyes. Then after a few seconds of silence, he spoke in a low voice, "I can't tell." Before he could finish his sentence, a surge of pain came from his hand, as Xiao Nani had cut off another of his fingers. Looking at the man lying on the ground, Xiao Nanye's eyes were full of gloom. "My patience is limited." It was Prince Qing. Jiang Peihuan already knew about it. Upon hearing the man's words, she continued, "What did Prince Qing tell you to do next?" Glancing at Jiang Peihuan's face, the man said in a low voice, "Kill her." As soon as the man's words fell, Jiang Peihuan's long whip wrapped around his neck. With a slight jerk of her wrist, the man's breath was cut off. After killing him, Jiang Peihuan realized that Xiao Nani was standing next to her. She subconsciously looked up at him, but saw that his expression was calm. At this, Jiang Peihuan sighed in relief. Meeting Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Xiao Nani spoke softly, "Huan Er, next time if there's a need to kill, you don't have to do it yourself. Just tell me, and 111 do it for you." Huan Er. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to speak, she saw Xue Qi and Lin Xingqian coming towards them, along with Jiang Changbei. Seeing the man on the ground, Jiang Shangbai's eyes were filled with coldness. So it was these people who wanted to kidnap grandmother. They were acting on the orders of Prince Qing. Prince Qing. Upon hearing Jiang Shangbai's words, Jiang Peihuan nodded, and then repeated what the bandits had said. After learning about Xiao Junhao's plan from Jiang Peihuan, Jiang Shangbai's eyes filled with anger. Our general's mansion has no grudge with Prince Qing. Why would he do this? This is not the first time. These words were spoken by Lin Xingqian, who recounted his initial ambush of Jiang Peihuan on the road while meeting Jiang Shangbai's gaze. Upon hearing this, Jiang Shangbai's already grim expression darkened even further. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Jiang Changbei immediately said, "Huan Er, we have to tell father and mother about this. We will then appeal to the emperor for a judgment. Brother, do you believe that the emperor would indeed punish Prince Qing on our behalf?" Upon hearing this, a look of conflict appeared in Jiang Shangbai's eyes. Before he could say anything, Jiang Peihuan continued, "In any case, Prince Qing is still a prince. Besides, neither grandmother nor one have suffered any substantial harm. So even if this matter reaches the emperor, he won't really do anything to Prince Qing." Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool.com. Chapter 155. Eliminating the bandits. As long as Prince Qing staunchly denies it, this matter will eventually come to nothing. So, are we just going to let this matter rest? Of course, we can't let it rest. Hearing Jiang Shangbai's words, Jiang Peihuan chuckled softly and then said with a smile. While she spoke, although she had a smile on her face, there was no trace of a smile in her eyes. There was only a scheming and gloomy look in them. Everyone observing this scene suddenly felt a touch of sympathy for Xiao Juanhao. Turning to the man beside her, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly. If my guess is correct, the palace should be almost done being refurbished, right? Xiao Nani was not surprised by Jiang Peihuan's conclusion. Hearing her words, he nodded in agreement. Xiao Juanhao has already prepared the funds, so the completion is only a matter of time. In no more than 3 to 5 days, the palace should be completely refurbished. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan nodded, then continued. I suspect that with Xiao Junhao's character, after the palace refurbishment is completed, he will definitely invite the emperor to see his accomplishments. Seeing Xiao Nani nod, and then observing the puzzled expressions on Jiang Changbai and the others, Jiang Peihuan continued with a smile. What if the refurbished palace collapses in front of the emperor? What do you think will happen? Hearing this, everyone's faces revealed surprise. Xueqi was the first to speak. Even if Prince Qing is a royal prince, the emperor will probably blame him, won't he? Huan heir, one suppose what you want is not merely for Xiao Juanhao to be punished. As everyone was discussing, Xiao Nani suddenly looked at Jiang Peihuan and spoke. Meeting the man's gaze, Jiang Peihuan laughed and said, One heard that you have a good relationship with the Imperial Astronomical Bureau. Upon hearing this, Han Feng, who was hurriedly catching up, couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Who in the entire Qi kingdom doesn't know that his master detests the so-called theory of fate the most? Those in the Imperial Astronomical Bureau, who have been ridiculed by King Cheng, despise seeing Xiao Nani and would rather take a detour. However, upon hearing this, Xiao Nani nodded and said with a smile, Yes, I have a good relationship with the Imperial Astronomical Bureau. Jiang Peihuan had naturally heard about the relationship between Xiao Nani and the Imperial Astronomical Bureau, which is why she deliberately mentioned it. Now, seeing the man seriously nodding his head, she was left stunned. While Jiang Peihuan was stunned, Xiao Nani continued, Do you want the palace collapse incident to be associated with Xiao Juanhao? Not only to be associated with him, but one also want his fate to conflict with the emperor's. Since ancient times, emperors have placed great belief in the theory of fate. If the emperor knew that Xiao Junhao's fate conflicted with his own, he would harbor reservations, even if Xiao Juanhao was his biological son. Okay, I will arrange this matter. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nani spoke softly. It was already late at night. Han Feng looked at Xiao Nani and asked, Master, what are we going to do with the bandits on this mountain? Kill them. As soon as Han Feng's words fell, Xiao Nani spoke directly. When Xueqi and Jiang Changbai heard this, they couldn't help but say, Your Highness King Cheng, these bandits are good at martial arts. If we recruit them into the army, then, would recruiting them into the army do justice to those they killed? Before the two could finish speaking, Xiao Nani interrupted them. Hearing this, both of them were stunned and eventually shut their mouths. Lin Xingqian, who was standing nearby, was even more surprised by this scene. He suddenly felt extremely fortunate. He was glad that he hadn't actually done anything to Jiang Peihuan back then, or else he might not be standing here today. It was as if Jiang Peihuan had guessed Lin Xingqian's thoughts. She turned to him and said, General Lin, don't worry. You're different. Although you and your servants were once bandits, you have a moral code. You've never truly done anything to harm people. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani went down the mountain together. The people who had been kidnapped to the mountain had already been sent away by the soldiers. The official statement was that King Cheng had led the soldiers to wipe out the bandits. This matter had nothing to do with Jiang Peihuan. When they returned to the general's mansion, it was already late at night, and Xiao Nani didn't say much. Looking at Jin Peihuan on Lai Feng's back, he said softly, It's getting late. You should go back and rest. I will arrange that matter as soon as possible. Jiang Peihuan nodded, then followed Jiang Changbai into the general's mansion. As it was already late at night, Jiang Peihuan didn't wish to disturb anyone and headed directly back to the plum garden. The next morning, Jiang Peihuan got up early. She hadn't seen Jiang Hong and Shui Yan since she returned 2 days ago. Worried that she would not be able to see the two of them if she woke up late, Zhang Peihuan went to Yinlin early. When she arrived, Zhang Hong and Shui Yin were preparing for breakfast. Both of them were wearing their armor. Seeing Zhang Peihuan appear, a loving smile appeared on the couple's faces. Huan heir, come quickly. Shui Yin even personally set the bowls and chopsticks for Zhang Peihuan. After paying respect to the two, Zhang Peihuan sat down on the chair. Just as Zhang Peihuan was about to speak, she heard her mother's voice. Huan heir, how is your maternal grandmother's health? Mother, rest assured, grandmother's health has already improved. Zhang Peihuan didn't inform her mother about Wang Finji's poisoning. Shui Yin is the youngest daughter of old Madame Shui. She has an extremely close relationship with old Madame Shui. If she were to discover Wang Finji's act of poisoning, Zhang Peihuan wasn't sure how her mother would react. Thinking about old Madame Shui's arrangements, Zhang Peihuan chose to hide the matter. I asked Yi Xiao to give the prescription for grandmother's recuperation to second aunt. I think grandmother's body has already recovered. That's good. Knowing that old Madame Shui's was fine, Shui Yin finally breathed a sigh of relief. Zhang Hong and Shui Yin were husband and wife, so he naturally knew his wife's worries over the past few days. Hearing the conversation between the mother and daughter, he whispered, Yin heir, now you can be relieved. Shui Yin nodded. By the way, Huan heir, I heard that you and your older brother went to the outskirts last night. Yes. Father, I was about to discuss this matter with you. Putting down the utensils in her hands, Zhang Peihuan told Zhang Hong about everything that happened last night, including Xiao Junhao's scheming and plots. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, both Zhang Hong and Shui Yan's eyes were filled with anger. Especially Zhang Hong, his chopsticks snapped in his hand. As a prince, he is so ruthless. Father, speaking of it, grandmother was also implicated by me. Seeing the guilt in Zhang Peihuan's eyes, Zhang Hong quickly spoke up. Don't say that. What does this matter have to do with you? Father, even though Prince Qing is a royal prince, I can't swallow this grievance. So, I've asked King Cheng for some assistance in this matter. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 156. Going to King Cheng Mansion meeting Zhang Hong's gaze. Zhang Peihuan briefly explained the arrangements she had made. Upon hearing these arrangements, Zhang Hong appeared very satisfied. On the other hand, Shui Yin, who had overheard the conversation, couldn't help but express her concern. Huan heir, based on what you said, Prince Qing is extremely narrow-minded. If he finds out that you are the one orchestrating this, he will not let you off lightly. Mother, even if we do nothing, he will not let us go. Even though father has already handed over the military token, as long as our Jiang family remains in Jingdou, we cannot keep ourselves uninvolved. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Shui Yin fell silent. After a moment, she laughed. I really have grown old. Now, one can't see things as clearly as you, a young girl in her teens. Madam, Deputy General Liu has returned. At this moment, Yin Lin's maid walked in with a smile. Hearing this, a smile also appeared in Zhang Peihuan's eyes. Mother, if you're not busy today, why not check out the things that grandmother prepared for you? And Cousin Qi, he hasn't seen you yet. Yin heir, you don't need to go to the military camp today. Before Shui Yin could respond, Zhang Hong had already spoken. Hearing this, Shui Yin nodded. Then, Zhang Peihuan and her parents went to the main hall. At this time, Shui Qi also arrived in the main hall. Seeing Zhang Hong and Shui Yin, he hurried forward to greet them. Nephew greets aunt and uncle. Seeing the young man bowing to her, Shui Yan's eyes instantly turned red. Stepping forward, she helped Shui Qi up and carefully studied his features. When I left Qingzhou, you were still held in your father's arms. In the blink of an eye, Ah Qi, you've grown so much. No matter how old one gets in my eyes, aunt is always beautiful. You're just as sweet-talking as you were when you were a child. Shui Yan's sadness was washed away by Shui Qi's words. Mother, quickly go and take a look at the things that grandmother has prepared for you. There are many things that you like to eat. All right, we'll go take a look. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Shui Yin walked out of the main hall. All the boxes had been carried in, filling up the large yard. Most of them were food, but they were all food that Shui Yan liked to eat. Shui Yan's eyes were filled with tears when she saw these things. Huan heir, send over the things your grandmother prepared for your two aunts. Yes, mother. By the way, seeing Zhang Paihuan's puzzled expression, Shui Yan continued, these food from Qingzhou has a unique flavor. Prepare some and send it to King Cheng's mansion. Hearing Shui Yan's words, a hint of doubt flashed through Zhang Paihuan's eyes, but she still nodded. 2 hours later, Zhang Peihuan, Yi Shao, and Yu air boarded a carriage. King Cheng Mansion was located in the center of Jingdou, occupying a few hundred acres of land. King Cheng Mansion. Xiao Nani was practicing his sword skills. Upon seeing Han Feng rushing towards him, the long sword in his hand pointed directly at Han Feng's heart. Startled, Han Feng quickly shouted, Master, the eldest miss is here. What did you say? The man's long sword flicked, aiming straight at a fallen leaf. He then threw the sword, which embedded itself into a tree trunk. Just as Han Feng was about to speak again, the man's figure had already darted towards the mansion entrance. This was Zhang Paihuan's first visit to the King Cheng's mansion. She had never been here in her past life, and in this life, it was also her first time. Surveying the mansion, Zhang Paihuan's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. Other mansions were extravagant, but Xiao Nanyes was not only luxurious, but also carried an imposing aura. At the entrance stood two soldiers. At first glance, one could tell they were battle-hardened, their demeanor stern. Huan heir. While she was looking around, she saw a figure dressed in white walk out from the main gate. Xiao Nanyes' forehead was still covered in sweat, wearing his practice outfit. As he stood in front of everyone, Zhang Peihuan stepped forward and bowed. Greetings, Your Highness King Cheng. Before she could kneel down, he quickly grasped her hand. You don't need to bow to anyone in my mansion. As he spoke, Xiao Nani already led Zhang Peihuan by the hand into the mansion. Upon entering, the first thing she saw were 2 rows of soldiers. As she was about to inquire, she heard all the soldiers simultaneously shout, Greetings, Queen. The sound startled her, and she instinctively turned to the man next to her. Seeing him smiling, he softly laughed. After all, you will be my queen in 2 months. It's not wrong to call you that now. Unnoticed, all the soldiers' eyes fell on Zhang Peihuan. She noticed their curious stares, which bore no offense, so she did not say anything. Having spent time in the military, she felt quite at ease with these soldiers. She thought for a moment and looked at Yu heir. Give each soldier a share of the food I brought. Yes, eldest Mississippi. Huan heir, you brought food?
Yes.
Hearing Xiao Nanyes' words, Zhang Peihuan nodded softly, then said, My maternal grandmother sent over a lot of food from Qingzhou. My mother asked me to bring some to you. You should try it. At this time, the two of them had already walked to a pavilion, and Yi Shao was bringing up some snacks. Thank my mother-in-law for me. As he spoke, he picked up a piece of snack. He carefully finished all the snacks in his hand before looking at Zhang Peihuan. This snack tastes good. One really like it? I'm glad you like it. As she spoke, Zhang Peihuan subconsciously surveyed the environment around her. Ultimately, she could only describe it with 2 words, cold. Indeed, the entire Cheng's mansion was cold. Throughout their walk, she hadn't seen a single maid or nanny. Noticing Zhang Peihuan looking around, Xiao Nani said, Since you rarely visit, let me show you around. Okay. Seeing Zhang Peihuan nodding, Xiao Nani directly took her hand. Zhang Peihuan struggled slightly but failed to break free, so she went along with him. A hint of a smile appeared in his eyes as he led her to the backyard. Look, this is the horse stable. Following the direction he was pointing, Zhang Peihuan immediately saw a few Fergana horses. There were still people riding horses in the stable, all of whom were soldiers. After walking a bit further, Xiao Nani spoke softly, This is the archery range. As he spoke, Zhang Peihuan heard a cheer. Someone had just hit the bullseye. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 157. Zhang Peihuan's exceptional archery skills looking in the direction where the arrow hit the target. Zhang Peihuan realized that the person who shot the bullseye was none other than Lin Xingqian. Lin Xingqian was originally from a family of generals. so Jiang Peihuan was not surprised at his archery skills. However, what did surprise her was that the targets were moving and he still managed to hit the bullseye, which took more than just good archery skills. Greetings, Your Highness. At this moment, everyone saw Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan. Someone called out upon seeing Xiao Nani, Your Highness, you've arrived at the perfect time. How about you show us your archery skills? At that moment, a bow and arrow were passed to Xiao Nani. Xiao Nani initially didn't want to participate, but seeing the curiosity in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, he agreed and extended his hand to her. Huan Er, would you like to give it a try? Jiang Peihuan loved these places, but seeing the soldiers, she turned to Xiao Nani. Isn't this your training ground? Would it be appropriate for me to participate? You are my future princess and the future queen of Cheng's mansion. There's nothing inappropriate about it. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nani replied immediately. The man's voice was not low, and everyone at the training ground could hear him. Upon hearing this, a light chatter broke out among the crowd. Your Royal Highness, we've heard that the general is an exceptional warrior. Being the daughter of a military family, we believe your archery skills are equally impressive. Why don't you give us a demonstration? The men at the training ground were all Xiao Nani's soldiers, straightforward and honest. Although their tone was somewhat provocative, but Jiang Peihuan knew they meant no harm. Upon seeing this, she nodded, but Jiang Peihuan did not take Xiao Nani's outstretched hand. Instead, she leapt into the air and landed directly on the stage. Everyone watching this scene showed a hint of surprise in their eyes. Standing next to Xiao Nani, Jiang Peihuan whispered, I've never shot at moving targets before. Would Your Highness please demonstrate first? Hearing this, Xiao Nani didn't say much. Instead, he drew several arrows from the quiver. Jiang Peihuan noticed that he shot 3 arrows at once, each one hitting the bullseye. Excellent! The crowd erupted in cheers. Xiao Nani paid no mind to the others. Instead, he looked at Jiang Peihuan, who was showing approval in her eyes. A slight smile appeared on his face as he handed the bow and arrow to her. Here, give it a try. Accepting the bow and arrow, Jiang Peihuan first tested the tension of the bow before drawing an arrow from the quiver. With the string fully drawn, an arrow shot from her hand at high speed, splitting Xiao Nani's previous arrow lodged in the bullseye in two. The crowd went silent at this sight, their expressions shifting from surprise to sheer shock, except for Xiao Nani, who seemed to expect this outcome. Jiang Peihuan turned around, drew several more arrows from the quiver, and, just like Xiao Nani before her, she shot 3 arrows simultaneously. Each arrow hit the bullseye. Incredible! Your Royal Highness, your archery skills are extraordinary. How did you learn to do this? In the army, power and strength were respected above all else. If previously the soldiers were courteous to Jiang Peihuan because of Xiao Nani, now they showed her warmth and respect entirely because of her own demonstrated abilities. Hearing their words, Jiang Peihuan chuckled lightly and said, There's nothing to fuss about. Practice makes perfect. Jiang Peihuan recalled that when she had barely learned to walk, Zhang Hong was already coaching her in archery. At that time, Jiang Peihuan was not even as tall as the bow. The soldier who heard her words was about to say something, but was interrupted by Xiao Nani. He grabbed Jiang Peihuan's hand and turned to Lin Xingqian. You continue to train them? Yes, Your Highness. Jiang Peihuan nodded at everyone and then left with Xiao Nani. Xiao Nani took Jiang Peihuan around the majority of the mansion. They didn't finish the tour as the mansion was simply too big to cover in one day. Throughout the tour, Jiang Peihuan did not see a single woman. Jiang Peihuan initially planned to leave after delivering the snacks, but by the time she actually left the Cheng's mansion, it was already evening. Xiao Nani escorted her to the door. By this time, the butler of the mansion had prepared many gifts to be loaded onto her carriage. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan looked at Xiao Nani with confused eyes. Noticing her confused expression, Xiao Nani softly said, The great general's wife specially asked you to deliver food to me, so it's only right that I return the favor. Jiang Peihuan instinctively wanted to refuse, but knowing his character, she simply nodded. All right, I should get going then. Seeing him nod, Jiang Peihuan got into the carriage. Xiao Nani stood at the entrance, watching Jiang Peihuan's carriage depart until it disappeared around a corner. Only then did he divert his gaze. At this moment, Han Feng approached Xiao Nani and reported, "Master, the palace has been fully refurbished. In that case, Xiao Juanhao should be inviting the imperial brother to visit within the next few days, right?" Under normal circumstances, yes. Both Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan assumed Xiao Juanhao would wait at least 2 days before inviting Emperor Qiming to tour the newly refurbished palace. However, the very next day, Jiang Peihuan found herself in a carriage heading to the palace with Jiang Hong and Shui Yin. Apart from old Madame Jiang and those not present in the mansion, almost everyone from the Jiang family had come. At this time, Jiang Peihuan shared the same carriage with Jiang Ruyun. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, Jiang Ruyun whispered, "Big sister, why did the emperor suddenly invite all the ministers and their families to the palace? If I'm not mistaken, it's likely because the palace renovations are complete, and the emperor wants all the ministers to visit together." As it turned out, Jiang Peihuan's assumption was correct. When the carriage stopped at the palace entrance, Jiang Peihuan saw a long line of carriages, with the Lin family's carriage right in front of hers. Seeing this long line, Jiang Peihuan frowned, thinking it would have been better to arrive later. Just then, a young eunuch quickly walked towards them, attracting everyone's attention. The young eunuch stopped in front of the general mansion's carriage. After bowing to Jiang Hong, the young eunuch said softly, "Great General, 1 a.m. acting on orders of His Highness King Cheng. 1 a.m. here to escort you, madam, and the young ladies into the palace." Upon hearing the young eunuch's words, Jiang Hong instinctively looked at Jiang Peihuan's carriage before smiling and saying, "Thank you for your kindness. Please lead the way. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com." Chapter 158. Entering the palace as he spoke, Jiang Hong glanced at Deputy General Liu. The latter took a step forward and stuffed a small pouch into the hands of the young eunuch. The pouch was very light and did not weigh much. The young eunuch touched it and knew that it was silver notes. The smile on his face deepened. The carriage from the general's mansion drove directly into the royal palace, bypassing the queue of other family carriages waiting for inspection. On witnessing this scene, many onlookers showed a hint of dissatisfaction. However, considering the notable merits of the Jiang family, no one dared to say anything. Still, there were murmurs of complaint. "We're all lining up, but the Jiang family gets special treatment." The one who made this remark was none other than Yin Xian. At that moment, Yin Xian was seated in Lin Mingyu's carriage. Following Yin Xin's gaze as she lifted the curtain, Lin Mingyao also spotted Jiang Peihuan's carriage. Seeing that Jiang Peihuan's carriage advanced directly ahead, without the need to queue or undergo inspection, Lin Mingyu's eyes were filled with complex emotions. Just then, the curtain of Jiang Peihuan's carriage was abruptly lifted. It wasn't Jiang Peihuan, but Jiang Ruyun who had raised the curtain. Jiang Ruyun had heard Yin Xin's voice and, looking at Yin Xian seated next to Lin Mingyao, she said with a smug look, "There's nothing to be done. King Cheng is considerate of my elder sister and can't bear to see her waiting in line. If you don't want to wait in line, you could also go and plead with Prince Qing." Upon hearing Jiang Ruyun's words, Yin Xin's eyes filled with anger, but she was unable to rebuttal. Seeing the triumph in Jiang Ruyun's eyes, Yin Xian suddenly sported a faint smile. She didn't dare to offend Jiang Peihuan, but she wasn't afraid of Jiang Ruyun. "Jiang Ruyun, if one were you, I wouldn't dare to step outside now. A disgraced woman like you still dares to." Yin Xin's words were cut off by a sudden intense pain in her hand that held the curtain. With the sudden pain, she instinctively released her grip, and the curtain was promptly lowered. Across from her, Jiang Peihuan elegantly retracted her whip, then turned to Jiang Ruyun and said, "There's no need to talk with these people." "Yes, elder sister." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Ruyun let go of the curtain. Meanwhile, Yin Xian in the carriage across was looking at the red mark on her back, her eyes full of gloom. Beside her, Lin Mingyao, having witnessed this scene, had an equally unpleasant expression on her face. As Jiang Peihuan's carriage was about to disappear into the distance, Yin Xian couldn't help but turn to Lin Mingyao and SSL. "Yao Prince Qing is also presented today. Why hasn't he sent someone to escort you in first? Lin Mingio's expression turned even uglier when she heard Yin Zin's words. However, she softly replied, "Today, His Highness specially invited the Emperor to visit the palace. It's important for him. Let's not trouble him with these trivial matters." Yin Xian wanted to say something else, but seeing the frosty expression on Lin Mingio's face, she shut her mouth. By now, Zhang Peihuan had already made her way into the palace. As she descended from the carriage, she noticed Xiao Nani standing there. The man was dressed in black, accompanied by Han Feng. "Master, eldest miss is here." Xiao Nani, previously enveloped in coldness, instantly softened upon hearing these words. Stepping forward, Xiao Nani acknowledged Jiang Hong and Shui Yin with a nod. "Great General, First Madam, greetings, Your Highness. No need for such formalities." Upon seeing Jiang Hong and Shui Yin bowing to him, Xiao Nani quickly intervened. Once he stood upright, Jiang Hong turned to Xiao Nani and said, "Your Highness, we are grateful that you sent someone to usher us in early today. No need to thank me, Great General. It's a minor matter." Although he was speaking to Jiang Hong, Xiao Nani's gaze was fixed on Zhang Peihuan the entire time. Shui Yin noticed this and gave a slight smile. "Your Highness, did you come to see Huan Air? The palace grounds are quite scenic. One thought to give Huan Air a little tour." Upon hearing Shui Yin's words, Xiao Nani immediately responded. Shui Yin, with her forthright personality, chuckled at Xiao Nani's words and said, "Then, Your Highness, please go ahead and show Huan around." "Thank you, First Madam." Upon hearing this, Xiao Nani looked pleased. After a moment's thought, he gave Shui Yin a sincere bow. "First Madam, one appreciate the food that you asked Huan Air to deliver to me. I am deeply grateful for your kindness." Seeing Xiao Nani bowing to her, Shui Yin quickly reached out to stop him. "Your Highness, there's no need." She thought for a moment and then said softly, "We're all family now. The food is nothing." "Understood." Hearing this, Xiao Nani didn't say anything else, but his attitude towards Shui Yin became much gentler. Zhang Peihuan, who was standing at the side, watched the scene with a strange feeling in her eyes. "Greetings, Your Highness." Zhang Ruyun saw Xiao Nani and bowed respectfully. Xiao Nani nodded and didn't say anything. Everyone from the Jiang family slowly walked away, leaving only Xiao Nani and Zhang Peihuan. Looking at the back of the Jiang family, Xiao Nani looked at Zhang Peihuan and asked, "Why didn't Third Miss come today?" "Si Jin is still in the military camp." Hearing this, Xiao Nani nodded. He wanted to hold Zhang Peihuan's hand, but seeing the many people nearby, he restrained himself. His gaze towards her, however, was full of tenderness. "Let's go. I'll show you around. After all, you might not get a full view later." When he said the last sentence, the man's voice was very low, but Zhang Peihuan still heard it clearly. She subconsciously looked at the man beside her, only to see Xiao Nani nodding. Seeing this, Zhang Peihuan didn't say anything but followed Xiao Nani. In her previous life, Zhang Peihuan had also visited this palace once, accompanied by Xiao Juanhao. She remembered that when she came to this palace, her heart was full of excitement, and her eyes were filled with thrill. But now, the scenery remained the same. The person beside her was different, and so was her state of mind. It's only June, and there are lotus seeds already? As they arrived near a scenic river, Zhang Peihuan looked at the swaying lotus in the middle of the river with a bit of surprise. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nani also looked at the lotus seeds in the river. He chuckled, then suddenly leapt up. Zhang Peihuan looked up to see him flying over the river surface, bending down to pluck 2 lotus seeds, and then flying back to her side. Handing the lotus seed pods to Zhang Peihuan, Xiao Nani said softly, "I remember you like eating lotus seeds." Zhang Peihuan did indeed like eating lotus seeds, especially fresh ones, but considering that everything in the palace belonged to the emperor, she couldn't help but speak out, "Isn't it inappropriate to directly pluck this lotus pod?" Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 159. The dragon's head breaks. Don't worry. My imperial brother won't mind. Upon seeing Zhang Peihuan's expression, Xiao Nani understood her thoughts. As he peeled a lotus pod, he spoke. Hearing this, Zhang Peihuan subconsciously wanted to respond, but just as she prepared to speak, a hearty voice sounded near her ear. You brat, how do you know that one won't mind? Upon hearing this voice, Zhang Peihuan instinctively turned her head. A flash of bright yellow entered her vision. Zhang Peihuan recognized that it was Emperor Qi Ming. She quickly knelt and bowed. Greetings, Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. Greetings, my imperial brother. Seeing Emperor Qi Ming, Xiaonani calmly paid his respects. Without waiting for Emperor Qi Ming to respond, he helped Zhang Peihuan to her feet. Imperial brother, if you scare Huan Heir, one will empty your private treasury later. You brat, you still dare to threaten me? Hearing Xiaonani's words, Emperor Qi Ming snorted coldly, but there was no trace of anger in his eyes. Emperor Qi Ming directly sat down on a stone bench to the side. Then, he turned to Zhang Peihuan, who was standing nearby. After giving her a casual glance, he spoke in a low voice. You are Jiang Hong's eldest daughter? Yes, Your Majesty. Your servant girl is Zhang Peihuan. Zhang Peihuan did not meet Emperor Qi Ming's gaze directly, yet she did not avoid it either. Seeing this, Emperor Qi Ming's eyes showed a hint of admiration. You do bear some resemblance to your father's temperament. Do you like lotus seeds? Seeing the lotus pod in Jiang Peihuan's hand, Emperor Qi Ming continued to ask. Zhang Peihuan nodded, then spoke softly. When I was young, one liked to stay at my maternal grandmother's house. Qingzhou is known for its lotus seeds, which are very sweet, so I've liked them since I was a child. However, the soil and water in Jingdou are not suitable for growing lotus seeds, so the yield is quite low. When I saw this lotus pod just now, I was quite pleased. If you like them, I will gift you all the lotus pods in the river. Later, I will have them delivered to the general's mansion. Thank you, Your Majesty. Hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words, Zhang Peihuan hurriedly knelt down and bowed. Get up. Once Zhang Peihuan stood up, Xiaonani handed her the peeled lotus seeds. In front of Emperor Qi Ming, Zhang Peihuan didn't reach out to accept them, but warned him with a glance. However, Xiaonani appeared oblivious and directly took her hand, placing the snow-white lotus seeds in her palm. Seeing this, Emperor Qi Ming showed a touch of dissatisfaction in his gaze towards Xiaonani. What's this? You only have eyes for your future queen, and fail to notice your own imperial brother. Wang Kuan, didn't you hear that my imperial brother wants lotus seeds? Get to preparing them immediately. Hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words, Xiaonani responded without even lifting his head. When Wang Kuan, who was standing beside Emperor Qi Ming, heard this, he only smiled and did not say anything. However, Emperor Qi Ming gave Xiaonani a stern look. Just as he was about to speak, he heard, Your son pays his respects to Your Majesty, my imperial father, and greets my imperial uncle. When Zhang Peihuan heard the voice, she also turned around and bowed. It was Xiao Juanhao, along with the other princes Xiao Junmo and Xiao Jun. At first glance, Xiao Juanhao saw Zhang Peihuan. Upon seeing her, his eyes revealed a complicated emotion. Although he quickly returned to his usual demeanor, Zhang Peihuan clearly noticed the fleeting shadow in his eyes. Shifting his gaze from Zhang Peihuan, Xiao Juanhao turned to Emperor Qi Ming and said, Imperial Father, this palace has been refurbished. How about I accompany you on a tour, and you can check if there are any deficiencies? Good. The primary reason for Emperor Qi Ming's visit today was to inspect the refurbishment of the palace. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, he nodded in agreement. However, just as he was about to proceed, the emperor suddenly halted and turned towards Xiaonani. Nani, you come along too. Oh, bring your future queen as well. Understood. Hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words, Xiaonani casually responded. Other than Xiao Junimo, the other princes had complicated expressions in their eyes when they saw this scene. There was admiration, as well as jealousy. Zhang Peihuan had always known that Emperor Qi Ming doted on Xiaonani, but she didn't know that he would be so fond of him. As the group moved forward, Zhang Peihuan was walking at the back, and Xiaonani was also standing behind her. Xiaonani kept passing lotus seeds to Zhang Peihuan as they walked forward. Seeing this, Princeton, standing beside them, couldn't help but tug at Xiaonani's sleeve. Uncle, can you also give me some? No, if you want to eat it, go pick it yourself. Hearing Prince An's words, Xiao Nani didn't even raise his head and said directly. Xiao Junmo watched as Xiao Nani passed lotus seeds to Jiang Peihuan again, his eyes filled with a hint of sadness. At this moment, Xiao Junhao's voice echoed in everyone's ears, Imperial Father, this Mingqing Hall has just been refurbished. Does it meet your expectations? Upon hearing the words Mingqing Hall, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but look up. Before her was a grand main hall, its roof adorned with 8 five-clawed golden dragons sculpted from stone. At first glance, it was incredibly majestic and imposing. Emperor Qiming examined the Mingqing Hall in front of him carefully, with evident satisfaction in his eyes. How heir, you've done an excellent job. Xiao Juanhao had been under Emperor Qiming's criticism for some time, so hearing this sudden praise, his eyes were filled with surprise. After bowing to Emperor Qiming, he said excitedly, Thank you, Imperial Father, for your praise. This is my duty. Imperial Father, watch out. Before Xiao Juanhao could finish speaking, everyone heard a loud bang. Xiao Junmo, standing next to Emperor Qiming, quickly pulled him aside upon hearing the sound. A large stone had fallen from where Emperor Qiming was standing. Upon closer inspection, it was the head of the dragon on the roof. It didn't stop there. Several loud noises echoed again, and everyone retreated as the heads of the golden dragons on the Mingqing Hall broke off. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed surprise. She knew her elder brother might set up something in the Mingqing Hall, but she didn't expect him to be so ruthless. Nevertheless, Jiang Peihuan was quite delighted in her heart. Now, she was curious about how Xiao Juanhao would solve this crisis. What's happening? Emperor Qiming looked at the dragon head that nearly hit him, his face pale. Xiao Juanhao looked at the scene in front of him, his eyes filled with shock. For some reason, he felt that this incident was somehow related to Jiang Peihuan. Meeting Xiao Junhao's gaze, Jiang Peihuan looked clueless. At this moment, Emperor Qiming glared at Xiao Juanhao with anger. Prince Qing, is this the result of your refurbishment? Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 160. Xiao Juanhao was scolded, Imperial Father. Please forgive me, it is my fault. Upon hearing Emperor Qiming's words, Xiao Juanhao subconsciously wanted to explain, but knowing Emperor Qiming's character, he eventually just admitted his mistake silently. However, Xiao Junhao's admission of guilt not only failed to appease Emperor Qiming but rather worsened his mood. So, a simple admission of guilt can absolve you of all responsibility? You have repeatedly disappointed me. One give you opportunity after opportunity, and this is how you repay me? I accept my mistake. Facing Emperor Qiming's rebuke, Xiao Juanhao dared not argue and could only bow his head in guilt. At this moment, Xiao Nani spoke up quietly, Imperial brother, this matter might not be related to Prince Qing. Hearing Xiao Nani's words, everyone present was stunned, especially Xiao Juanhao. Instinctively, he suspected Xiao Nani of scheming something, but Xiao Nani didn't look at him. Puzzled by the matter, Emperor Qiming was now focusing on Xiao Nani. You are actually defending him? I'm not speaking in favor of Prince Qing. I just find the situation odd. This Mingqing Hall is the main hall and has always been maintained by specialists. Now, all these 8 golden dragons have lost their heads. It's truly strange. Therefore, Imperial brother, in my view, this matter might not necessarily be Prince Qing's fault. Why don't we let the Imperial Astronomical Bureau investigate? Although he didn't understand why Xiao Nani was defending him, upon seeing Emperor Qiming's expression soften a bit, Xiao Juanhao quickly said, Imperial Father, during the palace refurbishment, I have put in all my effort. As for the matter of the golden dragons, one truly do not know the reason behind it. One plead for your forgiveness. Hearing their words, Emperor Qiming fell silent. A moment later, he looked at Xiao Juanhao and said, Get up. After Xiao Juanhao stood up, Emperor Qiming turned to Wang Kuan and said, Go bring the people from the Imperial Astronomical Bureau.
Yes.
Wang Kuan quickly turned and left. Half a teacup's time later, An old man with a white beard appeared in front of everyone. He was the head of the Imperial Astronomical Bureau, Bai Yi. Upon seeing Emperor Qiming, Bai Yi quickly stepped forward and paid his respects. Your humble servant pays his respects to the Emperor. Long live the Emperor. First, take a look at how these golden dragons lost their heads. Yes, Your Majesty. Hearing Emperor Qiming's words, Bai Yi stood up and began to closely observe the Mingxing Hall. He nodded and shook his head from time to time, his hands constantly fiddling as if calculating something. Just as Emperor Qiming's patience was about to run out, he turned to him and said, Your Majesty, these golden dragons have lost their heads. It is. One dare not say. Bai Yi looked flustered, but as he spoke, his gaze kept drifting towards Xiao Juanhao. Seeing this, Xiao Juanhao suddenly had a bad feeling. Emperor Qiming frowned and spoke directly. Speak your mind. What are you afraid to say in front of me? Please forgive me, Your Majesty. Bai Yi immediately knelt down and continued. The reason why the golden dragon was lost their head was because His Highness, the Qing King, and Your Majesties, the Emperor, are incompatible with each other. Therefore, if His Highness repairs this palace, not only will it affect the fate of the country, but it will also harm Your Majesty, the Emperor. Nonsense. Before Bai Yi could finish his words, Xiao Juanhao glared at him darkly, ready to strike, but was blocked by Xiao Nani. Facing Xiao Junhao's angry gaze, Xiao Nani spoke softly, Prince Qing, how dare you act in front of the Emperor? Imperial Father, please forgive me, but this Bai Yi, he is clearly being manipulated. After saying this, Xiao Juanhao glared at Bai Yi. Who instructed you to slander me? Your Majesty, one swear on my life that I am not talking nonsense. I am the Emperor's son, and you dare to utter such nonsense. You dare say you are not talking nonsense, you. Although His Highness is the Emperor's child, His Highness doesn't only have the Emperor's blood. His Highness' birth mother is of low status. Before Xiao Juanhao could finish his words, Bai Yi quietly interrupted him. Upon hearing this, Xiao Junhao's gloomy eyes immediately turned murderous. Zhang Peihuan was sure that if it were not in the presence of Emperor Qiming, Bai Yi would have been killed by him already. Xiao Juanhao, what are you doing? Are you trying to kill someone in front of me? Emperor Qiming turned around and saw the murderous intent in Xiao Junhao's eyes. The latter quickly kneeled down and whispered, Imperial Father, I am innocent. That's enough. This matter ends here. Go back to your Prince Qing's mansion. Don't come to the palace without my order. Emperor Qiming interrupted Xiao Junhao's words before he could finish. At this moment, all the civil and military officials, all the influential people in the court has arrived and heard Emperor Qiming's words. Everyone had different expressions in their eyes. Some were worried, some were mocking. Among these people, only Lin Mingyao was full of worry when looking at Xiao Juanhao. But Xiao Juanhao didn't glance at Lin Mingyao. Instead, his eyes were clouded with gloom as he looked at Zhang Peihuan. He couldn't believe that this matter was unrelated to Zhang Peihuan, especially after Xiao Nani suggested consulting the Imperial Astronomical Bureau. He was more convinced that this was a trap set for him. In fact, Xiao Juanhao was right. This was indeed a trap laid by Zhang Peihuan. Meeting Xiao Junhao's gaze, Zhang Peihuan didn't look away. This trap was a gift from Xiao Juanhao to her in their previous life. In the past, the golden dragons in Mingxing Hall also had their heads severed, but Bai Yi had asserted that the person who was at odds with Emperor Qiming was Zhang Hong. Later, Zhang Peihuan found out that everything was part of Xiao Junhao's scheme. Today, she intended to let Xiao Juanhao experience the taste of his own medicine. Your Majesty, one will take my leave now. Xiao Juanhao bowed to Emperor Qiming and then turned around to leave. Due to the incident involving the golden dragon, Emperor Qiming was not in a jovial mood. Seeing this, everyone suggested that they should leave. Zhang Peihuan also left with Zhang Hong and Shui Yin. Just as Zhang Peihuan settled into the carriage, she heard the sound of horse hooves. Zhang Ruyun, who was by her side, lifted the curtain and saw Xiao Nani approaching. She quickly told Zhang Peihuan, Elder sister, it's King Cheng. Upon hearing this, Zhang Peihuan looked out the window. Zhueyun had already neared the carriage. The man on the horse looked at the occupants inside the carriage and whispered, "Don't worry about this. I've taken care of everything." Jiang Peihuan understood that Xiao Nani was referring to the Golden Dragon incident. Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan nodded, then quietly said, "Thank you. Huan Air, with me, you never need to say thank you." Seeing the man frown, Jiang Peihuan nodded, "Okay, I will remember." Hearing this, a hint of a smile appeared in Xiao Nanya's eyes. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Jiang Hong approaching. "King Cheng, we need to return home. You can move along now. There's no need to block the way." Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool.com. Chapter 161. The Grievance of Zhang Ruyun. Although Jiang Hong didn't conclude his sentence, Xiao Nani was able to comprehend his intent from the inflection in his voice. Xiao Nani cast an intense glance at Jiang Peihuan before raising his whip. Seeing the man's figure disappear around the corner, Jiang Peihuan turned to Zhang Ruyun, instructing, "Lower the curtain." Once the curtain was drawn, Zhang Ruyun gazed at Jiang Peihuan with evident admiration. "Elder sister, Prince Chang is indeed very kind to you. Doesn't young Master Chao treat you well? Brother Chao is good to me, but what is it? Is there something wrong within the Chao family?" Jiang Peihuan had only asked casually, yet she was shocked by the irritation that flitted across Jiang Ruyun's eyes. Reflecting on the Chao family, with Chao Jun's gentle character, as well as the good nature of Master Chao and Madam Chao, Jiang Peihuan couldn't fathom what could be causing Jiang Ruyun's dissatisfaction. Observing Jiang Ruyun's silence, Jiang Peihuan lowered her voice to ask, "Did Master Chao or the Madam Chao show any dissatisfaction towards you?" "No. Uncle Chao and Auntie Chao are very kind to me. However, the old Macam of the Chao family doesn't like me." "Old Madam Chao?" Jiang Peihuan strained to recall, but she had no memory of this person. Inside the carriage of the general's mansion, Jiang Peihuan and Zhang Ruyun were engaged in conversation, paralleled by Shui Yin and his spouse's dialogue. Reflecting on the recent events, Shui Yin shot an irritated look at Jiang Hong. "What on earth were you doing just now?" Seeing Shui Yin's expression, Jiang Hong rubbed his nose awkwardly and said in a low voice, "Aren't we not married yet? Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking." Hearing Jiang Hong's words, Shui Yin pinched his arm in annoyance. At this moment, a person dressed like a nanny suddenly walked up to Jiang Hong and his wife's carriage. "First, Madam Jiang, our old madam has been feeling rather under the weather recently. She would like to see the second Mississippi. Could the second Miss perhaps visit our old madam?" The one who spoke was Nanny Chao, who was standing beside the old madam of the Chao family. As their carriage trailed closely, Jiang Peihuan and Zhang Ruyun overheard Nanny Chao's conversation. Recognizing the voice, Zhang Ruyun furrowed her brows, and Jiang Peihuan keenly sensed her mood shift. Turning to Zhang Ruyun, Jiang Peihuan murmured, "This nanny works for the Chao family." Zhang Ruyun nodded in agreement, replying softly, "She is one of old Madam Chao's attendants." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan frowned. According to protocol, if old Madam Chao genuinely wished to see Zhang Ruyun, the invitation should have been extended by Madam Chao, not a nanny. At that moment, Shui Yan's maid approached Jiang Peihuan's carriage. "Second Miss, the nanny from old Madam Chao's household has come to escort you. She would like you to pay a visit to the old madam." "I understand. I'll go immediately." Faced with the audience, Zhang Ruyun had no option but to comply. Despite her inner displeasure, she began to lift the curtain of the carriage. However, just as she was about to descend, her hand was held by Jiang Peihuan. "Elder sister? I'll accompany you." In response to Zhang Ruyun's puzzled look, Jiang Peihuan replied calmly. Finishing her words, Jiang Peihuan briskly lifted the curtain and addressed the elderly nanny, "Nanny Chao, since the old madam isn't feeling well, it is only proper as juniors that we pay her a visit. Conveniently, I'll accompany my younger sister. Let's head to the Chao mansion." Saying this, Jiang Peihuan directed her gaze towards the driver. As their carriage moved to the side, Jiang Peihuan looked towards Shui Yan's carriage and announced, "Father, Mother, I'll accompany my younger sister to the Chao mansion. We'll return to our mansion later." Remember to show due respect at the Chow mansion. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Shui Yin gently reminded her. Once Zhang Peihuan acknowledged with a nod, she let down the curtain. Witnessing the carriage pass by, Nanny Chow was taken aback. By the time she thought to intervene, the carriage had already covered some distance. On the way to the Chow mansion, Zhang Peihuan learned about the events that had transpired during her brief visit to Qingzhou. At first, knowing that Chow Jun was set to wed the young lady from the general's mansion, the esteemed old Madame Chow had been overjoyed. Yet, upon discovering that Jiang Ruyun had been previously married and divorced, the old Madame's delight turned into incessant nitpicking. Jiang Ruyun was not yet married into the Chow family, but the old Madame often used her as an excuse, sending her to the Chow residence to secretly pick on her. Eldest Miss, you don't know how outrageous old Madame Chow is. She actually made the second Miss serve her meals. Even at home, the second Miss has never had to serve our own old Madame. When Jiang Ruyun's maid, Lan Er, said this, her eyes were full of anger. On hearing this, Zhang Peihuan, however, was not very angry, just a bit annoyed. She looked at Jiang Ruyun and said coldly, "You didn't tell second uncle and second aunt about this? You know my father's personality, elder sister. Old Madame Chow is an elder after all, and my father wouldn't say anything. As for my mother, if she knew, I'm afraid she'd stir up trouble." Upon hearing this, Zhang Peihuan remained silent. If she had guessed correctly, the old Madame Chow dared to act this way only because Jiang Ruyun never complained, and no one in the general's mansion said anything. Looking at Jiang Ruyun, Zhang Peihuan said lightly, "Although old Madame Chow is an elder, you and young Master Chow are not yet married, so she can't be considered your real elder. Moreover, it was the Chow family who took the initiative to marry you, not our general mansion. Therefore, you don't have to lower your stance too much. Even if you truly marry into the Chow family, you are not only the young madam of the Chow family, but also the second miss of the general's mansion. You also represent the general's mansion." By the time she finished speaking, the carriage had already arrived. Soon, the driver's voice came from outside. "Eldest miss, second miss, we've arrived." Then the curtain of the carriage was lifted, and Jiang Peihuan directly looked ahead. Seeing the gateway in front of her, Jiang Peihuan frowned. At this time, Nanny Chow smiled at Jin Peihuan and said, "Eldest miss, second miss, let's go in." As she spoke, Nanny Chow took the lead to walk in. Seeing this, Zhang Peihuan's eyes were full of coldness. "Wait a minute." Hearing Zhang Peihuan's voice, Nanny Chow stopped, turned her head, and looked at her in confusion. "Today my sister and I have come to visit the old madam. Does the Chow family's rules actually make guests enter through the side door?" "Eldest miss, you misunderstood. The rule of the Chow family is that the main entrance is for the master and young master. As for the second miss, since she's engaged to the young master, she will be the young madam of the Chow mansion in the future, so naturally, she can only enter through the side door like the madam. Is this also the old madam's idea?" Looking at Nanny Chow, Zhang Peihuan raised her eyebrows. This? Of course, it was the old Madame Chow's idea, but at this moment, Nanny Chow did not dare to say. Seeing her silence, Zhang Peihuan turned to Jiang Ruyun. "The last few times you came, did you also enter through the side door? Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 162. Going to the Chow family. Jiang Ruyun didn't say anything, but the answer was pretty clear. Anger flashed in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. "You used to be so bold at home, but outside, you're completely helpless." In the past, if Zhang Peihuan had spoken to her like this, Jiang Ruyun would have been filled with rage. However, after the previous incident, she knew that Jiang Peihuan truly cared for her. Hearing these words, she didn't get angry, but showed a hint of shame instead. "Elder sister, it's my fault." Seeing Jiang Ruyun's agreeable attitude, some of Jiang Peihuan's anger faded. But when she turned to look at Nanny Chow, her eyes were cold. If these are the rules of the Chow family, then one have nothing to say. However, the Chow family has their rules, and we, the Jiang family, have ours. In our family, we don't enter through side doors during our visit. So today, we won't be visiting today. Farewell. With that, Zhang Peihuan got into the carriage. Seeing that Zhang Ruyun was still standing there, Zhang Peihuan ordered, "Get in." Looking at the Chao mansion, there was a trace of indecision in Zhang Ruyun's eyes. But in the end, she got into the carriage. You guys. Nanny Chao watched the scene in disbelief. The carriage of the general's mansion was already heading back the way it came. "Nanny, what should we do now?" "What should we do? Hurry up and tell the old madam." As she spoke, Nanny Chao hurriedly ran into the mansion. Chao Mansion. The old Madam Chao was originally just an ordinary farmer's wife. She married old Master Chao because her family had some business that could provide for the Chao family's children's education. Although Master Chao had been an official for many years, the old madam still behaved like a farmer's wife. The main courtyard of the Chao mansion was occupied by the old madam. When Nanny Chao entered the courtyard, Madam Chao was fanning the old madam. This was typically a task for a maid, but the old madam despised Madam Chao's scholarly demeanor and never gave her a gentle look. Master Chao was a scholar who deeply valued filial piety. Even though he was aware that his mother was making his wife's life difficult, he did not dare to speak out. "Put some effort into it. Haven't you eaten?" Old madam asked. Madam Chao, not being physically strong, felt her wrist grow sore after fanning for an hour or two. Hearing the old madam's words, she responded softly, "Mother, my wrist is really sore. Couldn't we let the maid fan you for a while?" "What are you suggesting? You're my daughter-in-law, am your mother-in-law. If you don't serve me, do you expect a maid to?" "Mother, one didn't mean that, Old madam, bad news." At that moment, Nanny Chao rushed in. Upon seeing Nanny Chao, the old madam sat up. However, when she didn't see a familiar figure, she frowned. "Didn't I instruct you to bring that woman here? Where is she?" "Old madam, she was already at the side door, but the eldest daughter of the Jiang family took her away." Nanny Chao quickly explained the situation. Hearing this, the old madam's eyes filled with rage. "They've truly turned against us. What kind of education does the Jiang family provide for their daughters? She's a divorced woman. Does she believe she's a treasure? Since the old madam is so displeased with my sister, why not just cancel the marriage between the two families?" A cold voice emanated from the doorway at that moment. It was Zhang Peihuan. Zhang Peihuan was about to leave with Zhang Ruyun, but she ran into Chao Jun on the way and so returned. However, she didn't expect to hear such a conversation upon entering the old madam's courtyard. "You? Who are you?" The old madam of the Chao family had always been in control, and this was the first time someone had addressed her in such a way. Her face flushed with anger. Zhang Peihuan disregarded the old madam and bowed to Madam Chao. "Madam Chao, when the marriage was arranged, you and Master Chao personally came to ask for it. My second uncle and aunt believed that the Chao family was filled with scholars, so they agreed to the marriage. However, I didn't know that the Chao family would despise my sister so much. If that's the case, let's cancel the marriage." "No, you can't." Before Madam Chao could respond, Chao Jun interjected. Glancing at Zhang Ruyun, then at Zhang Peihuan, Chao Jun said softly, "Eldest miss, although you're Yun Er's sister, marriage is traditionally arranged by parents. It can't be cancelled just because you say so. My eldest sister can naturally make the decision for my marriage." At this moment, Zhang Ruyun, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. The anger in Zhang Peihuan's eyes faded when she heard this. She turned her gaze towards Zhang Ruyun. Zhang Ruyun thought that Zhang Peihuan was in a difficult situation, so she stepped forward, standing right in front of her. "We, the children of the Zhang family, are one. We share in each other's glory and in each other's loss. Therefore, if my elder sister is unwilling about this marriage, they'll go home and inform our parents right away. We can call off the engagement." "Heh, you think you're still an innocent maiden. You're already a divorced woman. If you break off your engagement with my Jun heir, do you think you'll be able to marry again? Why do one have to get married? I'm the second daughter of the general's family. As long as the general's mansion exists, I won't starve. Even if my parents and elders think one bring them shame, one can cut my hair and become a nun. It's better than being tormented." As she finished, Zhang Ruyun turned to look at old Madam Chao. In that moment, Madam Chao suddenly held a great respect for Zhang Ruyun. Dropping the fan in her hand, she stepped forward, grasping Jiang Ruyun's hand tightly. Ruyun, don't say such things. June Air truly cares about you, and I truly like you too, you. By the time she finished, tears filled Madame Chao's eyes. Seeing her in tears, Chao Jun hurried over. Mother? Aunt, don't be sad. Madame Chao genuinely cared for Jiang Ruyun. Seeing her so distressed, Jiang Ruyun quickly stepped forward. Watching this scene, Jiang Peihuan remained silent. But old Madame Chao was infuriated. She didn't dare to say anything about Jiang Ruyun. After all, she hadn't married into the family yet. However, she was quite harsh towards Madame Chao. Kneel down. Hearing this, Madame Chao was about to kneel, but was held up by Chao Jun Air. Looking at her son standing in front of her, Madame Chao's eyes were full of tears. When he first arrived, Jiang Paihuan's words made Chao Jun realize something. After he and Jiang Ruyun get married, he would not only be the son of the Chao family, but also Jiang Ruyun's husband. He must protect her. He couldn't let Jiang Ruyun suffer from his own grandmother anymore. Placing Madame Chao behind him, Chao Jun directly kneeled before old Madame Chao. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 163. Then you don't have to live anymore. Shortly after, he spoke in a low voice. Grandmother, if you have any dissatisfaction, just scold me, your grandson. But my mother has respected you for many years. You cannot grind her down without reason. I am my mother's child. If you are dissatisfied with her, take it out on me. June Air, please get up. Madame Chao, watching this scene, cried and reached out to pull up Chao Jun. Good, very good. Foolish people, this is the good son you have raised. Old Madame Chao was so angry that her eyes were filled with blaze. Turning her head, she saw a teacup and grabbed it to throw at Madame Chao. Seeing this, Jiang Paihuan's eyes were filled with coldness. Lifting her leg, she kicked the teacup aside. The cup instantly shattered into pieces, and Madame Chao, looking at the broken cup, was filled with horror. Old Madame Chao, do you realize that if this cup had hit Madame Chao, she would have certainly been seriously injured today? Old Madame Chao was caught in the heat of the moment, regretted throwing the cup as soon as it left her hand. Seeing that the cup did not hit Madame Chao, she breathed a sigh of relief. But hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, her anger deepened. You uneducated girl, how dare you speak when your elders are talking? If that's the case, then I'll take my leave. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan didn't want to say anything else and simply spoke. As her voice fell, Jiang Peihuan left immediately. Seeing this, Jiang Ruyun bowed to Madame Chao and followed Jiang Peihuan. But Jiang Peihuan thought for a moment and looked at Jiang Ruyun. Regardless, Madame Chao has been good to you. She was just frightened, so you stay and take care of her. When you find Madame Chao is all right later, then you can go back to the mansion. Yes, elder sister. Jiang Ruyun was also somewhat worried about Chao Jun, so after hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, she stayed. Then, Jiang Peihuan left the Chao mansion alone. Jiang Peihuan left the carriage for Jiang Ruyun and prepared to ride a horse back to the general's mansion. But as she turned the corner, a fragrance came rushing towards her. Although Jiang Peihuan held her breath subconsciously, some of it entered her lungs, and suddenly she felt darkness before her eyes. When Jiang Peihuan woke up, her wrists were in pain, and she saw that her wrists and ankles were tied up. The room was pitch black, and Jiang Peihuan knew it was already night because she saw someone standing by the window, but outside it was dark. Jiang Peihuan had just moved when a man's voice came. You're awake? Hearing this voice, Jiang Peihuan frowned. The man by the window turned around, and in the darkness, Jiang Peihuan saw his face. It was Xiao Juanhao. Xiao Juanhao slowly walked over to Jiang Peihuan. Prince Qing, I wonder why you had people kidnap me and bring me here? Don't you know why I'm looking for you? Jiang Peihuan. Before Jiang Peihuan could say anything, Xiao Juanhao continued. Why are you treating me this way? Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were full of complexity, her heart full of hatred, but her face showed none. I don't know what Prince Qing means. Jiang Peihuan, Don't play dumb with me. Xiao Juanhao reached out and grabbed Jiang Paihuan's shoulder, looking directly into her eyes. The incident of the golden dragon head was orchestrated by Xiao Nani. You can't say it wasn't because of you. Jiang Peihuan, we were together for a while. Don't you have any old feelings for me? Our relationship was good back then. Why are you so heartless? Do you really have no feelings for me at all? You, feelings? Haha. Before Xiao Juanhao could finish speaking, Jiang Peihuan burst into laughter, as if she had just heard an amusing joke. Although Jiang Paihuan's face was filled with smiles, there was no hint of amusement in her eyes. Instead, it was filled with mockery. She looked at Xiao Juanhao, her eyes full of mockery as she spoke. Xiao Juanhao, when you were with me, was it really because of love? Or was it because you wanted to use me? Hearing this, Xiao Junhao's face changed. He suddenly looked at Jiang Peihuan with gentle eyes. One admit I was using you before, but if you are willing, I can treat you well in the future. You am not willing? Jiang Peihuan interrupted him before he could finish. Looking at the man before her, she said directly, even though I don't know what you're plotting, I won't have anything to do with you anymore. Fine. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being heartless. Hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, Xiao Junhao's eyes turned dark and sinister. He stood up and slowly walked towards the door. Originally, one was planning to spare your life, but now there's no need. With that, he left the room. Watching his retreating figure, Jiang Peihuan frowned. She tried to move her wrists, but no matter how she tried, she couldn't break free. Moreover, the ring on her index finger had been taken away, leaving her no means to cut the ropes. Suddenly, a banging sound came from outside. Jiang Peihuan looked up and saw shadows on the windows. Xiao Juanhao was having the doors and windows sealed. Confusion filled her eyes, but soon she realized what was happening when she smelled the thick smoke. Xiao Juanhao was planning to burn her alive. Soon, flames were reflected in Jiang Paihuan's eyes. Outside the door, Xiao Juanhao stood, watching the flames rise, his eyes showing mixed emotions. The fire grew larger. Jiang Peihuan struggled in vain. Suddenly, she saw a vase on the table. With an idea, she slammed into the table, smashing the vase to the ground. With great effort, she grabbed a shard. Then, she began to cut the ropes on her hands. As Jiang Peihuan cut the ropes, the door was kicked open. The person who entered saw her cutting the ropes, eyes filled with worry, but still grabbed her hand. Under the illumination of the fire, Jiang Peihuan saw Xiao Junhao's face. Her eyes were full of confusion. Go. As he spoke, Xiao Juanhao dragged Jiang Peihuan out. The flames grew so intense that it was almost impossible to open one's eyes. Jiang Peihuan forcefully shook off the hand holding her, drew the whip from her waist, and with a flick of her wrist, struck Xiao Junhao's arm. Are you insane? Holding his arm, Xiao Juanhao looked at Jiang Peihuan with furious eyes. At that moment, Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with pain. He should have just burned Jiang Peihuan to death, but in that split second, when he saw the flames rising, he had impulsively rushed inside. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 164. Xiao Juanhao injured, even he himself didn't know why. Just thinking that if Jiang Peihuan really died like this, his heart began to tremble. Jiang Peihuan didn't know what was on Xiao Junhao's mind. She only knew that this man wanted to burn her alive. In her previous life, he had already forced her to take her own life. In this life, he wanted to burn her to death again. Adding up both lives, if she didn't kill him, it would be hard to vent her anger. Jiang Peihuan, what are you doing? Initially, Xiao Juanhao could dodge her attacks, but Jiang Peihuan became more and more fierce. Xiao Juanhao had to fight back, and even didn't care to reveal that he knew martial arts. Heh! Seeing the man draw his long sword, a deeper look of mockery appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Other people might not know, but she knew better than anyone that Xiao Juanhao not only knew martial arts, but he was also very skilled. So Jiang Peihuan attacked mercilessly, but even so, she was still not a match for Xiao Juanhao. Seeing the fire getting bigger, Jiang Peihuan was preparing to leave, but she was not willing to let Xiao Juanhao go so easily. Just then, a figure suddenly appeared. The man, holding a long sword, lunged at Xiao Juanhao. Xiao Juanhao instinctively dodged, but the man seemed to know his reaction, so his sword directly stabbed his shoulder. When pulling out the sword, the man kicked Xiao Junhao's body, right where he was injured, and Xiao Juanhao fell to the ground. Then, the man picked up Zhang Peihuan and leaped away. After a few jumps, he landed with Zhang Peihuan in a street corner. "Xiao Nani, why are you here?" When she was hugged by the man, Zhang Peihuan knew it was Xiao Nani, so she didn't resist. Hearing her voice, Xiao Nani pulled off his face cloth. Looking at her, his eyes were full of concern. "Are you hurt?" Zhang Peihuan shook her head. As he spoke, Xiao Nani carefully looked over Jiang Peihuan's body. Seeing no visible injuries, he heaved a sigh of relief. Turning to Zhang Peihuan, Xiao Nani continued, "I was going to the plum garden to see you, but after waiting a long time and not hearing from you, I learned from Yi Xiao that you went to the Chao family, but when I got there, your younger sister said you had left. I knew something had happened to you." He said it calmly, but Zhang Peihuan didn't know that Xiao Nani had used all his power and strength to find her. Seeing Zhang Peihuan fighting with Xiao Juanhao in the fire, Xiao Nani's first reaction was to kill Xiao Juanhao directly. Thinking of what happened tonight, Xiao Nani couldn't help but grasp Zhang Peihuan's hand. "Why were you there?" "Xiao Juanhao wanted to kill me." Then she didn't know what got into him, but Xiao Juanhao wanting to kill her was a fact. Hearing this, Xiao Nani's eyes instantly turned cold. His hand that was holding Jian Peihuan's hand tightened. "I will settle this score with him today. You don't need to do anything else. I'll handle it myself." Faced with the man's puzzled expression, Zhang Peihuan whispered, "No matter what, he is still a prince. If the emperor finds out, it will not be good for you." "I don't care." Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nani instinctively responded. He wanted to tell her something, but in the end, he closed his mouth. Zhang Peihuan could feel that Xiao Juanhao wanted to say something to her, but since he didn't speak, she didn't ask. For a moment, both of them fell silent. A moment later, after a while, Xiao Nani looked at Zhang Peihuan and said, "Let's go. 111 take you back to the mansion?" "Okay." Zhang Peihuan nodded and began to walk forward. Xiao Nani raised his hand and whistled. Then, Zhue Yun appeared before them. Xiao Nani got on the horse first, then reached out to Zhang Peihuan. Seeing the man's extended hand, Zhang Peihuan took it, and with a pull, she was seated right in front of Xiao Nani. The horse headed straight for the general's mansion. Behind them, in the fiery light, a man covered in blood was carried out of the room by Pei Wu. "Your Highness." Setting the man down, Pei Wu's eyes were full of concern, but no matter how much he called out, Xiao Juanhao gave no response. Pei Wu saw the wound on Xiao Junhao's shoulder and his face changed instantly. "Quick, back to the mansion, guard Pei. Should we call a doctor?"
No.
Without a second thought, Pei Wu hurriedly responded. After a moment of silence, he looked at a guard and said, "You go and get Miss Lin. Be quick."
Yes.
When Xiao Juanhao was brought to the Prince Qing mansion, Lin Mingyao had also gotten down from the carriage. Pei Wu stood by Xiao Junhao's bedside, and seeing Lin Mingyao enter, he rushed forward. "Miss Lin, His Highness is injured. We can't alert the Emperor about this, so I have no choice but to find you." Lin Mingyao didn't say anything. She looked at Xiao Juanhao. Seeing the man's condition, her eyes were filled with displeasure. Why is he injured like this? It's all because of the eldest daughter of the Jiang family. After that, Pei Wu briefly explained what had happened. Hearing that Xiao Juanhao had rushed into the fire to save Zhang Peihuan, Lin Mingyao's eyes became dark and cold. However, she quickly regained her composure and looked at Pei Wu, speaking coldly, "I will treat His Highness now. Don't let anyone disturb me."
Yes.
Pei Wu immediately left the room and guarded the door. After he left, Lin Mingyao removed Xiao Junhao's clothes, and seeing the wound, her eyes were filled with worry. "Zhang Peihuan, you are really ruthless." Lin Mingyao didn't know who caused the wounds on Xiao Juanhao, assuming it was Zhang Peihuan. Carefully helping Xiao Juanhao remove his clothes, Lin Mingyao heard a sound and looked down to see a red gemstone ring on the floor. It was the one Xiao Juanhao had taken from Jiang Paihuan's finger. Picking up the ring, Lin Mingio's eyes were filled with mixed emotions. She recognized the ring, having seen it many times on Jiang Paihuan's hand. "Your Highness, why did you keep her ring?" Lin Mingyao asked softly, but the man on the bed had no way to answer her. Lin Mingyao set the ring aside, and then began treating Xiao Juanhao. By the time dawn came, Xiao Juanhao finally opened his eyes. Seeing the person lying on the edge of the bed, Xiao Junhao's eyes held a glimmer of surprise, but realizing it was Lin Mingyao, he suddenly felt a touch of disappointment. Noticing his own disappointment, Xiao Junhao's eyes darkened. "Xiao Juanhao, did you actually hope that it would be that woman? Your Highness, are you awake?" Hearing the sound, Lin Mingyao immediately opened her eyes. "Yao Air, you've worked hard. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 165 I will request the Emperor to grant our marriage. Looking at Lin Mingyao, who was standing by his side, Xiao Juanhao spoke softly. "Your Highness, this is what I should do. You don't need to thank me." Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Lin Mingyao quickly spoke up. Xiao Juanhao said nothing more but began to look around subconsciously, his eyes finally falling on his coat. Sensing his focus, Lin Mingyao inquired in a gentle voice, "Your Highness, are you looking for something?" "I'm a bit thirsty, Yao Air. Could you pour me a glass of water?" "Sure, please wait a moment," she said, moving from the bedside to the table. Watching her back, Xiao Juanhao picked up his coat and felt inside, pulling out a ruby ring. He stared at the ring, his hand clenched tightly around it. "Your Highness, please drink some water," Lin Mingyao called, returning to his side. Hastily hiding the ring under the blanket, Xiao Juanhao allowed her to help him drink. After a few sips, he gestured that he was done. Setting down the teacup, Lin Mingyao softly asked, "Your Highness, were your injuries caused by eldest Miss Jiang of the Jiang family?" "Not entirely because of her, but it has something to do with her," he replied. When he thought of the man who had stabbed him, Xiao Juanhao subconsciously felt that the man was Xiao Nani even though he had covered his face. At the thought of this, his expression turned gloomy again. "Yao Air, there's something I need your help with," he said, leaning over to whisper in her ear. "All right, I will ask the princess for help," she nodded, her eyes filled with tenderness. "It's no trouble, Your Highness. It's my honor to be able to help you." Looking at Lin Mingyao, Xiao Juanhao was reminded of Jiang Peihuan, though she was never as gentle as Lin Mingyao, forever appearing cold and sharp. "Your Highness?" Lin Mingio's voice broke his reverie. Your Highness, your injuries are severe. They'll stay here to take care of you for the next few days." "All right, have Pei Wu arrange a room for you." He agreed without hesitation, adding, "Your Highness, please rest well. I'll go change my clothes and come back to see you later." "Okay," Lin Mingyao acknowledged, standing up. As she turned to leave, the tenderness in her eyes vanished, only to reappear when Xiao Juanhao called after her. "Yao Air, Your Highness, as soon as my injuries heal, one will request the Emperor to grant our marriage." "Your Highness?" Lin Mingio's eyes widened in surprise, then filled with unbridled joy. "Thank you, Your Highness." With Lin Mingio's departure, Xiao Juanhao was left to study the ruby ring, his eyes clouded with conflicting emotions. Meanwhile, at Qing's mansion, Jiang Peihuan remained oblivious to these unfolding events. When the morning light filtered into the room, Jiang Ruyun knocked gently on Jiang Peihuan's door. "Elder sister," she called. Jiang Peihuan, who had just risen from bed, answered calmly, "Come in." "Elder sister, you didn't encounter any danger yesterday, did you?" Jiang Ruyun's eyes were filled with concern as she entered the room. Recalling Xiao Nanye's visit the day before, she had been frightened, fearing something had happened to her sister. Only late at night, when she heard from Lan Air that Jiang Peihuan had returned safely, had she been able to breathe a sigh of relief. If it hadn't been so late, she would have come over last night. But this morning, she could wait no longer. Seeing her sister's worry, Jiang Peihuan smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry, I'm fine. There was a little issue yesterday, so I was late." She kept to herself the details of what Xiao Juanhao had done, especially since she hadn't been the one at a loss. That's good, Zhang Ruyun said. Do you plan to tell second uncle and second aunt about the Chao family? Zhang Peihuan posed the question as they sat down in the small flower hall. Zhang Peihuan regarded her for a moment before speaking. Zhang Ruyun's silence was a thoughtful one, and after a pause, she looked up to say, Elder sister, I don't want to tell father and mother about this for now. And I believe that after this incident, if I ever have a conflict with old Madame Chao, Brother Chao will protect me. Zhang Ruyun's reflections on the previous day's events had brought her understanding. She couldn't have everything, but she considered herself fortunate compared to her future mother-in-law, Madame Chao. At least Chao Jun would stand by her, something Madame Chao hadn't had in facing old Madame Chao all those years. Zhang Peihuan simply nodded, respecting her sister's wishes regarding her own marriage. But she couldn't help adding, after you marry into the Chao family, if anything really happens, you must tell us at home. I know, Zhang Ruyun affirmed, aware that her marriage was postponed due to not wanting to offend Xiao Nani, which had led to the postponement of both hers and Zhang Paihuan's weddings. Eldest Miss Liu has arrived, Yu Er announced, interrupting their conversation as she entered the small hall. Zhang Peihuan set down her teacup and spoke softly, let her in. Moments later, Lu Xian, accompanied by a maid, entered the room, bowing to the sisters and smiling. I didn't know the second young miss was here with Sister Zhang. I'm sorry for interrupting. It's no problem. Come sit, Zhang Peihuan replied graciously. Lu Xian nodded, smiling, but her eyes flitted to Zhang Ruyun involuntarily. The glance did not escape Zhang Peihuan, who remained silent. Zhang Ruyun, however, addressed Lu Xian directly, her voice soft. Miss Liu, I was rude before. I especially want to apologize to you here. Lu Xin's eyes widened, filled with surprise. Second miss, please don't say that. Her confusion was evident, hinting at an underlying tension and the unspoken matters that lay between them. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 166. Lu Xian bid farewell. Since you call me sister, you don't need to call me second young miss anymore. Just call me Sister Ruyun. All right, then from now on I'll call you Sister Ruyun. Then I'll call you Xian heir, just like my elder sister do. Zhang Peihuan had noticed the change in Zhang Ruyun. In her previous life, Zhang Ruyun was confused for a long time. In this life, fortunately, everything was moving in a positive direction. Sister Zhang, one came today to bid you farewell. Are you going back to the mansion? Hearing Lu Xin's words, Zhang Paihuan's eyes showed a hint of surprise. Meeting Zhang Paihuan's eyes, Lu Xian smiled and said, the wound on my leg has healed, and it's time to go back to the mansion. Have you told my elder brother about this? Thinking of Zhang Changhua, Zhang Peihuan couldn't help but speak, but Lu Xin's smile gained a trace of helplessness upon hearing that name. Looking at Zhang Peihuan, Lu Xian continued, I want go to see young Master Zhang. Sister Zhang, besides saying goodbye, one have a favor to ask of you. As she spoke, Lu Xian took a bundle from her maid's hand. Handing the bundle to Zhang Peihuan, Lu Xian spoke softly, when one was injured, young Master Zhang tore a piece of his clothing to bandage my wound. So one made this for him to express my gratitude. Why don't you give it to him yourself? Sister Zhang, please help me. Hearing Zhang Paihuan's words, Lu Xian smiled and didn't say anything. Seeing this, Zhang Peihuan could only nod, taking the bundle. All right, they'll give it to my elder brother for you. Thank you, Sister Zhang. I'll take my leave now. With that, Lu Xian stood up. Watching her figure, Zhang Peihuan couldn't help but speak. Do you want me to send someone to escort you back to the mansion? No need. Uncle has already arranged it. Hearing this, Zhang Peihuan didn't say anything more. Zhang Ruyun, watching Lu Xin's departing figure, couldn't help but turn to Zhang Peihuan and say, Elder sister, do you think Xian heir is in love with our elder brother? Don't gossip about a young lad's reputation, Zhang Peihuan cautioned, her voice gentle but firm. To anyone with eyes, Lu Xin's feelings were quite evident. But considering the reality of their situation, if Liu Xian truly wanted to marry Jiang Changbai, there were numerous challenges and obstacles that she would have to face. Hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, Jiang Ruyun nodded, understanding her sister's point of view. Just as they were preparing to leave, the maid, Yu Er, approached them again. Eldest Miss, the eldest Princess Mansion has sent an invitation. They're inviting the young ladies to enjoy the flowers, she announced, holding the delicate invitation in her hands. What a strange time for this, Jiang Ruyun exclaimed, unable to hide her surprise. What flowers are there to enjoy now? Hearing Yu Er's words, Jiang Peihuan remained silent, but her brow furrowed at this time. The eldest princess had invited the young ladies from various families to enjoy the flowers, but Jiang Peihuan felt something was off. Her unease wasn't resolved until she saw Lin Mingyao beside the eldest princess, and the realization dawned. The event was set for the evening, but no one dared arrive late or just on time. Thus, by the afternoon, the place was bustling with guests. Since Jiang Xijin was in the military camp, only Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Ruyun from the Jiang family were present. Soon after settling down, Jiang Peihuan noticed Lin Mingyao, who was supporting the eldest princess, walking towards her. Lin Mingyao had become a favored guest at the eldest princess mansion ever since she saved Prince in there. Her astuteness, combined with the skill of reading people, had led the eldest princess to take special care of her. Just as it happened this time, Lin Mingyao casually mentioned to the eldest princess that the capital hadn't hosted a ladies' banquet in a while, prompting the eldest princess to immediately send out invitations. Yao Er, you are so clever. These flowers are more lively when admired together, the eldest princess remarked as she approached, met with respectful bows from the crowd. Watching the vibrant scene unfold, she smiled and spoke to Lin Mingyao. Hearing this, Lin Mingyao softly laughed. All the young ladies here are as beautiful as flowers, enhancing the scene. One believe, princess, seeing them will lift your mood. Her words deftly praised not only the eldest princess, but also the young ladies in attendance. At first, the sight of Lin Mingyio's closeness with the eldest princess had excited the crowd, given that many of the young ladies present were of higher status. However, Lin Mingyio's graceful words tempered their jealousy, though some dissatisfaction lingered. Jiang Peihuan watched the proceedings with a calm detachment until a familiar voice captured her attention. Imperial sister, why didn't you send me an invitation to the banquet? Dressed in white and holding a folding fan, Xiao Nanyi walked over with Han Feng. Seeing Xiao Nanyi, the eldest princess greeted him with a surprised but welcoming smile. Who doesn't know that you are a very busy man? No matter how busy, I must attend Imperial sister's banquet, he replied, his eyes unconsciously drifting towards Jiang Peihuan. The room noticed, and all eyes turned to her, jealousy in their glances. Though many young ladies in the capital yearned to marry Xiao Nanyi, his cold demeanor had kept them at bay. Yet, his newfound affection for someone was a pill they found hard to swallow. Imperial aunt, how could you not inform your nephews about such a fun event? More figures appeared, including Prince Un, Prince Rue, and others. Jiang Peihuan also spotted Xiao Juanhao, looking uninjured and dashing in his black brocade robe. Her gaze shifted quickly, but Xiao Junhao's eyes lingered on her. Because of the banquet, Jiang Peihuan wore a light blue gown instead of her usual plain attire, rendering her exceptionally ethereal. Xiao Junhao's admiration was palpable, and he found it hard to tear his gaze away, only doing so at a cold warning glance from Xiao Nanyi. Observing the subtle exchange, the eldest princess smiled and commanded, "Enough! Everyone take your seats." As everyone found their places, Xiao Nanyi's voice rang out, "Huan Er, come sit beside me." He spoke openly, and though Jiang Peihuan looked at him helplessly, he turned to a maid, ordering, "Prepare another chair."
Yes.
Even in the eldest princess mansion, the maid obeyed Xiao Nanyi without question. "Eldest Miss Jiang, come here quickly," Prince called, even shifting to make room as the maid brought the chair. Follow current novels on Top Novel.com. Chapter 167. Visiting the eldest princess mansion upon seeing this, Jiang Ruyan reached out and tugged at Jiang Peihuan's sleeve, whispering, "Elder sister, you should go." Jiang Peihuan had no choice but to slowly walk towards Xiao Nani. As she approached, the man quickly stood up, took her hand, and carefully pulled out a chair for her. Once Jiang Peihuan sat down, Xiao Nani then sat in the chair beside her. Although it was a single table, it was quite large, so both Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani could sit together without feeling crowded. "Your Highness, if we admire the flowers alone, it may be somewhat boring. Since all the young ladies here are talented, why not have them perform their skills one by one at their leisure?" Lin Mingyao suggested to the eldest princess, and the young ladies from various families showed excited expressions. Facing the princes, they were very eager to show off their skills. The eldest princess saw the eagerness of the young ladies and nodded with a smile. "This is a good idea. Let's get someone to arrange it." The people invited in the eldest princess mansion were all well-trained. Soon, the young ladies of each family drew their own numbers. There are 4 talents inside this brocade box: playing the zither, dancing, painting, and composing poetry. We'll draw a talent, then randomly draw a number, and the young lady who is chosen will have to perform that talent, explained Lin Mingyao, as everyone agreed. At this moment, the eldest princess took off a jade pendant and placed it on the table. "Since it's a talent show, I will provide a prize. The best performer today will receive this jade pendant from me." Hearing the eldest princess' words, all the young ladies showed excited smiles. Even Jiang Ruyan's eyes sparkled with surprise. Among everyone, only Jiang Peihuan remained expressionless. Jiang Peihuan had seen such things countless times in her past life, so she had no interest in them now. However, the desserts in the eldest princess mansion were quite good. Jiang Peihuan quietly kept putting the desserts from the table into her mouth. Coming from a military family, she didn't care much about fine dining. As she ate the desserts on the table, Jiang Peihuan thought they were much tastier than those at the Jiang residence. Although her movements were quick and subtle, several people saw her. One of them was Xiao Nani, who was sitting beside her, and the others were Xiao Juanhao and Lin Mingyao. "Do you like these desserts?" Xiao Nani whispered in her ear. Jiang Peihuan, realizing that she had already finished a plate of desserts, and hearing the man's words, nodded. "These desserts taste good." As she spoke, she put the last piece of dessert into her mouth. "Who has number 17? Lin Mingyio's voice called out, but no one answered. When Jiang Peihuan looked up, she suddenly saw Lin Mingyao looking at her. Her eyes twinkled, and Jiang Peihuan picked up the paper she had casually put on the table. It was indeed number 17. Standing up, Jiang Peihuan said calmly, "Number 17 is me." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, everyone turned to look at her, and a smile appeared in Lin Mingyio's eyes. "Miss Jiang, this round is a dance talent show. Do you know how to dance?" Although Lin Mingyio's smile was very gentle, Jiang Peihuan still caught a glimpse of mockery in her eyes. "Miss Lin, everyone is aware that Miss Jiang excels in martial arts, but her talents don't extend to music, chess, calligraphy, or painting. To ask her to dance would be like setting an unreasonable challenge for her," someone in the crowd pointed out. "That's what was drawn. So if it's something she can't do, she'll have to drink 3 cups as a penalty," Miss Lin responded firmly. A murmur of discussion spread among the crowd. Seeing the situation unfold, Jiang Ruyan promptly spoke up, "My elder sister hasn't been feeling well lately. One will dance in her place." With those words, Jiang Ruyan stood up, a determined look in her eyes. A smile flickered in Jiang Peihuan's eyes as she watched her sister stand. But just after Jiang Ruyan stood up, a harsh voice rang out, objecting, "Jiang Ruyan, this is merely a talent show. If Miss Jiang can't dance, she should simply take the penalty drink. You cannot substitute for her. Are you people from the Jiang family so scared of losing?" The person who spoke was none other than Yin Xian. Hearing her words, anger flashed in Jiang Ruyan's eyes. Just as she was about to speak, Jiang Peihuan's voice was heard. "When did one say I won't perform? Elder sister?" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, surprise appeared in Jiang Ruyan's eyes. Seeing her expression, Jiang Peihuan smiled lightly. "The desserts are good. You can try them." "Really?" Zhang Ruyun unconsciously picked up a desserts from the table. After taking a bite, she realized that Jiang Peihuan had already stood up and walked to the center. Watching Jiang Peihuan approach, Lin Mingyao asked softly, "Miss Jiang, are you preparing to perform a dance? Didn't Miss Lin draw a dance talent?" As Lin Mingyao's words fell, Jiang Peihuan responded calmly. Lin Mingyao quickly nodded, yes. Jiang Peihuan looked away from Lin Mingyao and turned to the eldest princess. "Your Highness, one will perform the water sleeve dance, and I need to change my clothes and prepare some things. Yiyun, take Miss Jiang to prepare." "Yes, Your Highness. Miss Jiang, please come with me." The woman standing next to the eldest princess smiled at Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan left with Yiyun, and everyone waited quietly. Half a cup of tea later, footsteps were heard. But the first to appear were not Jiang Peihuan, but a group of soldiers in armor, each holding a small hand drum. The soldiers walked to the center, forming a circle. At that moment, a cry of surprise was heard from the crowd. Following the sound, Jiang Peihuan's figure appeared before everyone. She was dressed in red and had no accessories on her. She only had long hair that was tied up casually with a red ribbon. But this appearance of Jiang Peihuan carried an inexplicable charm. Xiao Nani sat up straight. Noticing that several princes were staring at Jiang Peihuan, a chill appeared in his eyes. "Eldest princess, 1 a.m. ready." Jiang Peihuan slowly walked into the circle of soldiers, and after bowing to the eldest princess, she spoke softly. Surprise also flashed in the eldest princess' eyes. Having watched emperors rise to power over many years and seen countless beauties, she had never seen a woman like Jiang Peihuan, beautiful without being aggressive, yet inherently captivating. At that moment, the eldest princess suddenly understood why Xiao Nani had fallen for Jiang Peihuan. "Since you are ready, let's begin. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com." Chapter 168. Jiang Peihuan dancing, yes. Jiang Peihuan stood up, and with a single bound, she leaped. At this moment, two soldiers immediately stepped forward and raised the small hand drums they were holding. As Jiang Peihuan gently landed, her feet stepped directly onto the drum heads held by the soldiers. Everyone who saw this was completely astonished. Then, the soldiers who had previously formed a circle knelt on one knee and also raised their drum heads. Jiang Peihuan twirled and stood, and at the same time, she flung her long sleeves. As the water sleeves lashed out, they struck the drum heads perfectly. Throughout the performance, Jiang Peihuan's legs stood on the drum heads. Whether leaping or spinning, her feet never left the drums. And the water sleeves in Jiang Peihuan's hands constantly changed with her movements. Every time they were flung out, they would hit the drum heads. The entire banquet hall was dead silent, with only the sound of drums ringing out, playing a rhythm that sounded like a war song. Jiang Peihuan, standing on the drum heads, had a solemn look in her eyes, and there was also a touch of faint sadness. In her previous life, she indeed knew nothing of music, chess, calligraphy, or painting. However, after being with Xiao Juanhao, she had learned all of these diligently to win his favor. She was skilled with a whip, and since the water sleeves dance shared similarities with a whip, she learned this dance as well. The palm-sized drum heads, Jiang Peihuan stood firmly on them, continuously leaping, her figure as light as if she had no weight. Her water sleeves motions grew wider, and listening to the drumming, everyone felt their heartbeat quicken. Just when the crowd felt like their hearts would stop, the drum sound gradually softened. When the drumming stopped, all the soldiers rushed forward, some standing, some kneeling on one knee, arranging their drum heads into a staircase shape. Jiang Peihuan, standing at the very back, stepped down one by one, then gathered her water sleeves and bowed to the princess. The eldest princess, stunned, looked at Jiang Peihuan in her red dress, her eyes expressing more than just astonishment. It took her a long time to react. The eldest princess finally picked up a jade pendant from the table. "Miss Jiang, your dance is truly unparalleled in the world. The eldest princess didn't even bother to watch the next performance and directly handed the jade pendant to Jiang Peihuan. Lin Mingyao, who was supposed to dance after Jiang Peihuan, looked on with a very unpleasant expression in her eyes. Hearing the eldest princess' words, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly. "Your Highness is too kind. Thank you for your reward." She reached out and took the jade pendant from the eldest princess. "Please take your seat." "Thank you." Jiang Peihuan sat back down next to Xiao Nani, and as soon as she sat down, the man immediately opened his cloak. Ignoring the surprise of the people around, the man personally tied the ribbon around her neck. As he was tying the ribbon, he whispered to her, "From now on, you can only dance this dance for me alone." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan unconsciously looked up, only to see the undisguised passion in the man's eyes. Seeing her staring at him in a daze, Xiao Nani pinched her fingertips. "Did you hear me?" Everyone saw Xiao Nani talking to Jiang Peihuan, but couldn't hear what they were saying. Jin Peihuan nodded helplessly. Seeing her nod, the man's expression softened. Soon, a small plate was brought to Jiang Peihuan. "You like the desserts, don't you?" Lowering her head, Jiang Peihuan found that the plate that she had emptied earlier was full again. "Yao Er, isn't it your turn to perform next?" At this moment, the eldest princess smiled at Lin Mingyao. Lin Mingyao nodded reluctantly. Lin Mingyao's performance was also a dance, right after Jiang Peihuan's. Originally, she had arranged it this way to show everyone how much better she was than Jiang Peihuan. But now, thinking about Jiang Peihuan's dance, Lin Mingyao felt her steps heavier. But with everyone looking at her, Lin Mingyao still confidently walked to the center. Dressed in white, elegant in posture, all eyes fell on her. Fairly speaking, Lin Mingyao's dance was good, but with Jiang Peihuan's extraordinary performance preceding it, the audience's interest was somewhat lukewarm. During her dance, Lin Mingyao's eyes inadvertently looked towards Xiao Juanhao, but she was startled to find that his gaze was constantly directed behind her. As she was spinning, she realized that Jiang Peihuan was right behind her. Xiao Juanhao was looking at Jiang Peihuan. Coming to this conclusion, Lin Mingyao's eyes showed a touch of panic. With this panic, her foot slipped, and she fell to the ground. "Yao Er." Seeing Lin Mingyao on the ground, the eldest princess was momentarily stunned before she hurriedly said, "Yun, call the doctor." "Your Highness, there's no need, I'm fine." Lying on the ground, Lin Mingyao heard the eldest princess' words and quickly spoke up. Biting her lip and getting up from the ground, Lin Mingyao said with a smile, "Your Highness, one am a doctor myself. One know my condition well. One really am fine. If you're fine, that's good." Seeing Lin Mingyao's insistence, the eldest princess didn't say anything further. "Forgive me for causing a scene." Although she had fallen, Lin Mingyao's graceful composure still made some people in the crowd show a hint of approval. Quickly, Lin Mingyao returned to her seat, but she then raised her wine glass towards Jiang Peihuan. "Miss Jiang, you are truly talented and beautiful. Am not your match. This glass of wine, I toast to you." Hearing Lin Yingjiao's words, Jiang Peihuan furrowed her brow. At that moment, a maid came forward and poured a glass of wine for Jiang Peihuan. The eldest princess noticed this and looked over as well. In front of the eldest princess, Jiang Peihuan had no choice but to pick up the wine glass. As she did, she smelled it carefully. There was nothing wrong with the wine. Jiang Peihuan looked up and saw Lin Mingyao's smile, filled with hidden meaning. Could she be overthinking it? "I'll drink first to show my respect." As Jiang Peihuan looked over, Lin Mingyao had already emptied the glass of wine. Seeing Lin Mingyao's overturned glass, Jiang Peihuan lowered her eyelids and picked up her glass. But just as she was about to drink, the wine glass was taken from her hand. "I will drink this glass for her." It was Xiao Nani. As he spoke, he had already drained the glass. Seeing Xiao Nani's action, Lin Mingyao showed no surprise. Her smile, however, deepened. Looking at Xiao Nani, she said with a smile, "King Cheng, when drinking on behalf of someone else, you must drink 3 glasses. If that's the case, then I will drink 3 glasses." As he spoke, Xiao Nani picked up the wine jug from the table. Seeing him take the jug, Lin Mingyu's eyes flickered. After Xiao Nani had drunk 2 glasses in a row, Lin Mingyao poured herself another glass. King Cheng, your ability to drink is impressive. Mingyao admires you. As Xiao Nani sat down, Zhang Peihuan immediately grabbed his pulse. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 169. Lin Mingyao was poisoned. There were no issues at all. However, a cry of surprise came from the eldest prince's side. It turned out that Lin Mingyao, after drinking the wine she had poured herself, began to incessantly scratch her own arm and neck. Yao Air, miss? No matter how the people around her call out, Lin Mingyao can't control herself. At this moment, Lin Mingyu's eyes are filled with terror. How could this be? This medicine was supposed to. She can't help but look towards Xiao Nani, only to see disdain and mockery in the man's eyes. With just one glance at Lin Mingyao, who is being led away by the crowd, Zhang Peihuan knows that this is the poison of the 7-colored flower. The 7-colored flower is odorless and tasteless, but once a person is poisoned, they immediately start to itch. Then, they scratch their flesh until it rots and they die. After Lin Mingyao is taken away, Xiao Juanhao freezes. After a few seconds, he immediately leaves. The eldest princess also left. After such an incident, everyone starts to make their excuses to leave. At the last banquet, Princeton was poisoned, and this time it's Lin Mingyao. Everyone is now looking at the eldest princess with a hint of fear. They believe that unless it's necessary, people will be afraid to come to the princess mansion again. Elder sister? Zhang Rian walks to Zhang Peihuan's side, and seeing her, Zhang Peihuan whispers, "Let's talk about it when we get back." Zhang Ruyun nods and follows Zhang Peihuan out. Zhang Ruyun was about to get on the carriage, but she realized that Xiao Nani was already one step ahead of her. Seeing this, she silently steps back down. You know about this? Looking at the man sitting across from her, Zhang Peihuan says in a low voice. It's a statement, not a question. Xiao Nani, hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, also nods. From Xiao Nani's account, Zhang Peihuan learns that today's banquet was a scheme by Xiao Juanhao. Initially, Zhang Peihuan thinks the banquet is aimed at her, but it's actually targeting Xiao Nani. The wine that Lin Mingyao drinks was originally prepared for Xiao Nani, but Xiao Nani has been watching Xiao Juanhao all along, so he knows about it early. When the wine cup was sent to the princess mansion, Xiao Nani had it sent to Lin Mingyu's table instead. As for why it wasn't sent to Xiao Junhao's table, it's simple, because Lin Mingyao knows how to cure the poison. But this time, Lin Mingyao herself is poisoned. Whether she can find someone to cure her will have to depend on fate. Hearing Xiao Nani's words, Zhang Peihuan can't help but look at him and say, Miss Lin is after all a delicate lady. You seem to lack the slightest sympathy for women. In my eyes, only you are the beauty who needs my sympathy. Other people, in my eyes, have no gender. When the carriage arrives at the general's mansion, Xiao Nani gets out. Looking at Zhang Peihuan, who lifts the curtain, the man lowers his voice and says, I will come to see you tomorrow. Zhang Peihuan only glares at him, not saying anything. Because Xiao Nani was in the carriage, Zhang Ruyun has to sit outside. Seeing Xiao Juanhao get off the carriage, she quickly climbs into it. Zhang Ruyun hears the conversation between the two people in the carriage, thinks for a moment, and can't help but say to Zhang Peihuan, Elder sister, one hope Prince Qing won't cause trouble for us because of this. Hearing Zhang Ruyun's words, Zhang Peihuan shakes her head. He probably won't. Even if Xiao Juanhao wanted to cause trouble for her, he wouldn't have the time right now. In fact, Zhang Peihuan was wrong this time. Prince Qing Mansion. Looking at Lin Mingyao, who was filled with agony, Xiao Juanhao glared at the doctor with fury. Can you cure her, or not? Please forgive us, Prince Qing. But we are incapable of treating Miss Lin's poison. Upon hearing this, Xiao Juanhao wished he could kill these people, but considering his current situation, he held back his anger. Get out? Hearing this, the doctors quickly left the room. At this moment, Pei Wu suddenly stepped forward. Your Highness, Perhaps you can let eldest Miss Jiang come and take a look at Miss Lin. Her? According to our investigation, Miss Jiang is capable of medical treatment. The poison previously administered to Jiang Changbai by Ming Yi was also cured by eldest Miss Jiang. Hearing this, Xiao Junhao's eyes displayed a mix of emotions. After thinking for a moment, he declared, "Let's go to the general's mansion." Xiao Junhao didn't use the main entrance, but directly climbed the wall to enter Jiang Paihuan's plum garden. When Xiao Junhao entered Jiang Paihuan's room, she was already awake. Without any hesitation, she reached for her whip and lashed out at him. However, the intruder was prepared and caught her whip. Seeing Jiang Peihuan ready to fight, Xiao Junhao immediately stated, "I'm not here to fight with you today. I need your help." "Prince Qing, I thought one made myself clear. I need you to save Yao Er." "Your Highness must be joking. How could I possibly save Lin?" "Jiang Peihuan, stop pretending. Since I've come to find you today, I naturally know about your medical skills. I don't have time for your nonsense. If you can't save Yao Er today, I'll make Jiang Xijin accompany her in death." "What have you done?" Before Jiang Peihuan could finish, Xiao Junhao interrupted her, and her eyes changed instantly upon hearing his threat. Seeing the gloom in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Xiao Junhao laughed. "Jiang Xijin is training in the Western Hills today. It's a place where wild beasts roam. If anything unfortunate happened to Jiang Xijin, no one could be blamed." Although Jiang Peihuan wasn't sure whether Xiao Junhao was telling the truth or not, she didn't dare risk Jiang Xijin's life. She glared at Xiao Junhao and coldly said, "Fine, they'll go with you." An hour later, Jiang Peihuan entered the Qing mansion. In her past life, she had been here many times, but in this life, it was her first visit. Entering the room, she detected a rotten odor. It was emanating from Lin Mingyao. Moving closer, Jiang Peihuan saw that Lin Mingyio's hands and feet were bound. There were several wounds on her body, all scratched out by herself. If she hadn't been tied up, Lin Mingyao would surely have injured herself further. Lin Mingyio's consciousness was somewhat muddled, but when she saw Jiang Peihuan, her eyes revealed a touch of resentment. Jiang Peihuan carefully observed Lin Mingyio's condition, then took out her silver needles. However, just as she was about to insert the needles, someone grabbed her wrist. "What are you doing?" Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Jiang Peihuan replied sarcastically, "If your Highness does not trust me, feel free to invite someone more competent." Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with unhappiness, but he let go of her hand. Without saying anything, Jiang Peihuan quickly inserted the silver needle into Lin Mingyio's acupoints, and the writhing Lin Mingyao immediately calmed down. Once Lin Mingyao had calmed down, Jiang Peihuan turned to Xiao Junhao and said, "She has been poisoned with the seven-color flower. To cure her, we need white soul grass, sky mountain snow lotus seeds. Get them prepared." Xiao Junhao didn't question Jiang Peihuan's request for these herbs. He simply turned to Pei Wu and gave the order. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 170. Curing Lin Mingyao. All right. After hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Pei Wu quickly turned and left. Then Jiang Peihuan sat down on a nearby chair and casually sipped her tea. Jiang Peihuan didn't ask the maid for assistance. Instead, she picked up the teapot and poured herself a cup of tea, then elegantly sipped it while nibbling on some snacks from the table. Xiao Junhao, sitting across from Jiang Peihuan, watched all of this with complex feelings. An hour later, Pei Wu entered the room. "Your Highness, everything is prepared." Xiao Junhao remained silent, but turned to look at Jiang Peihuan. Setting down her teacup, Jiang Peihuan spoke up. "Where are the things? Take me to see them." Following Pei Wu outside, Jiang Peihuan looked surprised when she saw what the guards held. These medical herbs, many of which were extremely hard to find. She had thought that it would take Xiao Junhao some time to gather them, but he managed to do it surprisingly quickly. Jiang Peihuan stepped forward, carefully examining the items in the guard's hands. "There are no issues with these things. Get me a pot for decoction. One will start the preparation." "Miss Jiang, you can tell the maid how to do it. The maid can't do it." Before Pei Wu could finish, Zhang Peihuan interrupted him coolly. Hearing this, Pei Wu subconsciously looked towards Xiao Juanhao. The always silent man spoke up in a low voice, "Do as she says." A moment later, someone brought a pot and medicine jar. Zhang Peihuan started to make a fire, processing the herbs while throwing them into the medicine jar. Seeing Xiao Juanhao standing nearby, Zhang Peihuan spoke up, "This medicine will take 2 hours to prepare. Your Highness, will you wait here for an hour? You better not play any tricks. Don't forget, your sister's life is in my hands." With that, Xiao Juanhao turned and went back inside the room. At the sound of the door closing, a shadow passed over Jiang Peihuan's eyes. When no one was looking, Zhang Peihuan secretly pocketed some herbs. This was Xiao Junhao's mansion. She couldn't harm him or Lin Mingyao, but she could charge some consultation fee. Hours later, Zhang Peihuan walked into the room with a bowl of medicine. Handing the bowl to a maid, Zhang Peihuan spoke up, "Feed her the medicine." "All right." Just as the maid was about to approach with the bowl, Xiao Junhao's voice stopped her.
Wait.
Hearing Xiao Juanhao, the maid immediately stopped. Taking the bowl from the maid, Xiao Juanhao passed it to Zhang Peihuan. "You drink first." As he spoke, his eyes held undisguised suspicion. Seeing his expression, a mocking smile appeared in Zhang Peihuan's eyes. She looked at the man across from her and coldly said, "Prince, this is your mansion. Do you think I'm foolish enough to harm someone you care about?" "Cut the crap. If you want to save Jiang Saijan's life, do as I say," he instructed. Upon hearing Jiang Saijan's name, Zhang Peihuan didn't say anything. She accepted the bowl from the man's hand and took a sip. After seeing her swallow, Xiao Juanhao handed the medicine to the maid. The maid carefully fed the medicine to Lin Mingyao. After taking the medicine, Lin Mingyao's face noticeably improved. "She will be fine by tomorrow morning. I'll take my leave now." Seeing this scene, Zhang Peihuan spoke directly. But as soon as she said that, Xiao Juanhao immediately interrupted. "No, Prince Qing, you threatened me with my sister's life to save her. I've done what you asked. What more do you want?" "Zhang Peihuan, you know very well what one want, don't you?" Xiao Juanhao responded after a brief silence, his eyes smoldering with intense purpose. Feeling disgusted and annoyed by his gaze, Zhang Peihuan reached for the whip at her waist, pondering whether to react. Suddenly, an enraged voice resonated from outside. "Your Highness King Cheng, you're at Prince Qing's mansion. Tell Xiao Juanhao to get out here." The familiar male voice echoed within the room, turning Xiao Junhao's face ugly, while Zhang Peihuan looked surprised. With a gloomy expression, Xiao Juanhao opened the door. Upon witnessing this, Zhang Peihuan also ventured outside. Huan Air. When Xiao Nani saw Zhang Peihuan, his stern look instantly softened. She quickly approached him. Standing beside the man, she questioned in a soft voice, "Why are you here? I heard from Yi Xiao that you were not in your room, so one came." As the two spoke, they seemed to ignore the presence of others. Xiao Juanhao, who already had an unpleasant look, seemed even more displeased. With a cold stare at the man in front of him, he said in a low voice, "Imperial uncle, it's inappropriate for you to barge into my backyard in the middle of the night. Is it appropriate for you to take your future imperial aunt away in the middle of the night?" At these words, Xiao Juanhao clenched his fist tightly. The title imperial aunt particularly stung his ears. Xiao Nani, however, was not willing to pay Xiao Juanhao any more attention. He turned to Zhang Peihuan and said, "Let's go." She nodded and left with him. Seeing this, Pei Wu clenched his sword tightly. Han Feng, who stood by Xiao Nani, smirked at him. "You can't even beat me. Better not embarrass yourself in front of my master." Fuming, Pei Wu could not find words to rebut, knowing his skills were indeed inferior to Han Feng's. Xiao Nani held Jin Peihuan's hand and swaggered out of the Prince Qing mansion. No one dared to stop him. Looking at their backs as they left, Xiao Junhao's palms oozed a trace of blood. Smelling the blood, Pei Wu noticed the droplets of blood on his hand. "Your Highness, you're hurt? I'll call the doctor." "No need," Xiao Juanhao said coldly, then turned around and entered his room. After leaving the Prince Qing mansion, Jiang Peihuan got into Xiao Nanye's carriage. The carriage was prepared as it was late. The interior was layered with thick blankets, providing a comfortable seat. How did you know I was at the Prince Qing's mansion? Although Xiao Nani had said that Yi Xiao told him she was not in her room, she didn't believe that this information alone could have led him to Xiao Juanhao. He reached out and poured her a cup of tea. After she took the cup, Xiao Nani said calmly, "That poison was originally prepared for me." Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 171. Jiang Sijin in danger Hernge than Sam words. Jina Suin easy Wuchio a nit fo swakenfo. However, after a few seconds, Jiang Peihuan understood. Following a brief silence, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but look at Xiao Nani and ask, "Why didn't you just exchange the medicine with Prince Qing? If oix juhan da neeb het one nuides yd, ot es ulode have defilinit region h, I'm hearing Jiang Peihuan's words. Xiao Nani softly said, "If Xiao Juanhao really had been poisoned today, it would have caused a lot of trouble if word reached my imperial brother. But, if something like this happens again, we can try." Sa he ps cape eo erit saw a hint of resenshuios and ish s, I arni hgihsw. Ors jigna siahun se ostwi a took fo klsi seeps. Ness master. Are we going back to the general's mansion now? At this time, Han Feng's voice came from outside the carriage. Thinking of Xiao Junhao's cunning, Jiang Peihuan directly said, "No, first to the military camp outside the city." Why? Shearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Han Feng didn't need to ask his master and directly complied. Facing Xiao Nanye's puzzled look, Jiang Peihuan softly said, "I'm worried that Xiao Juanhao might target Sijin. She's training in the secret forest by the military camp today." Sni Rui Ryoder Slet Go Keet A. Look an hour later. The carriage arrived at the secret forest near the military camp. When Jiang Peihuan arrived, she saw a pair of female soldiers, led by the Deputy General of the Feather Army, Wang Ying. Guan Igni, Ao saw Ualsiul Tazu Isen Seti on the Tatel, Bidful Nu of Ajnig Pyunsaha and Tet. Tu Janaes engage high, Nups Yimbal Tia U, Tetsla Esti, Edelmis? Deputy General Wang, please rise. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan nodded. There Uramin Elpio Dorn, but Nage Puhanii did Tun Si Jinga EGSSN Girif. Es Luke Ta Na Igni Nad Estk, R. CWHSI? And JI others did not know Jiang Sijin's identity, but Wang Ying did. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, she lowered her voice and said, "The third miss is still in the forest. She, Larinji Taser El Toaru." Before Wang Ying could finish her sentence, a female soldier rode up, panic in her eyes. Hearing her shout, Jiang Peihuan's heart skipped a beat. Why heaped? Jiang Sijin's horse got scared. She's gone into the deep forest. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's face changed. Looking at 8 a.m. in bides, Ray Jiang and Piehu Elituk Asti. I exoan Nyamel Nyog to find C. Jean, I'll go with you. Without hesitation, the man immediately spoke. Regahin iht s najij ani iph did ont reservoir but simple dd done in t, he the two fo them adnetmu etri. Horace at this moment, Wang Ying noticed Xiao Nani standing next to Jiang Peihuan. Seeing his appearance, a look of surprise appeared in Wang Ying's eyes. Hurry, help search for her. Najij Hienup and Aoex Inai Drio Jyartst into Het PT, Facer TL SWE, Sif Kalb Eins the Forits, Nadat Sop My Basasal to Sath Waya. Inganapu was Nulgafwial Emos Kartse Ot Evam Froa. DRW. After a while, Jiang Peihuan was deep inside the forest, but she still did not see Jiang Sijin. Suddenly, she heard a tiger roar. Hearing this sound, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani looked at each other. Hedi Dlup HD Ernsi and Ahe de Wert 8 Dasnu of the Rora. After a run that felt as long as it takes to brew a pot of tea, Jiang Peihuan finally saw Jiang Sijin. But the scene before her made Jiang Peihuan's face change. Jiang Sijin and a female soldier were on the back of a horse, sharing a ride. But a white tiger was about to catch up with them, thanks to the horse, named Lightning, being Jiang Sijin's mount. Enlithnig saw 8 Orshot Jiag Noh Ahd Hogerbut Cab Morph the RFR. Noyat Ikesn Jiang HSC Puina Sower SWA Eldklali, EFNG Jnaya Sinji named Ray NWO Sower Jinktel. HN if it was an ordinary horse carrying 2 people, it would have been caught by the white tiger by now. But Lightning was a swift horse and was running very fast. However, Lightning was clearly exhausted. Just as Lightning was about to be caught, the female soldier on the horse suddenly grabbed Jiang Sijin's hand and kicked her off the horse. A thy tigre aws trinialk. The mupnon taiswaihai, estiaj and ushanpa face ilfta tai. Knoaker the distance between Jiang Peihuan and Jiang Sijin was too great for her to offer assistance. All she could do was draw her long whip. With a flick of her wrist, she sent it sailing towards the white tiger. Sijin, move away, she shouted. Caught off guard, Jiang Sijin fell from the horse, her eyes wide with fear. But upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, a smile broke through her trepidation. Le Dre Ts? Iser, as she voiced the words, she noticed the gaping jaws of the white tiger. Close by was a dense thicket of bushes. Just as she considered tumbling into them for cover, her wrist was abruptly seized. It was Xiao Nani, who had just let go of the reins. With a light touch of his toes against the horse's flank, he propelled himself forward and latched onto Jiang Sijin's wrist. He and Hotsit Rayakbunt sigh. So seeing this, Jiang Peihuan breathed a sigh of relief. However, the white tiger, enraged by the lash of the whip, turned and launched itself at Jiang Peihuan. Sijin, Sthai both Nage in siege and Ziowa New York Ne Lo Deco Ower. D. Huan Air? Elder sister? As yet, Kalal Udo Lilston Sawi Xiao Yanini Hen the Insur Ot Ainge Nigs DNA Istrunts Jeliki, O, Uyog Fur. Ts with that, he dismounted and landed on Jiang Peihuan's horse. Just then, the white tiger pounced, but the horse, sensing impending danger, reared up. The tiger's jaws clamped onto the horse's neck, ending its life instantly. Aiox Nini led Nodo, Ianj Finju Dolniga Yodomals on HDRN. Good with the horse now dead, the tiger turned its glare onto Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani. Sitting on the horse, Jiang Sijin gripped the reins, her eyes filled with worry as she surveyed the unfolding scene. She yearned to charge forward but was halted by Jiang Peihuan's stern command. Don't come over, Elard. Retisis upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Sijin's eyes turned a fiery red. However, Jiang Peihuan ignored her, opting to ready her whip instead. Isao Nani Dutes Sadib Ingia, Hein Pao IHS Gazed VX on 8 EG. RTL Ksa K Ermred, Chui Satseb Ruff is Tiu Yukizikset. EEW Caudal Nixit Nad Isfan I Coral and Seep ROF OU. Yunwat Li Fidko and Ida. RWE Tin the white tiger opened its jaws and released a thunderous roar as if it comprehended Xiao Nanyas words. The entire mountain seemed to tremble. That's perfect, one like this color. Jiang Peihuan replied with a smile. As Rayorod's he, F Xiao Nai En Apida Orf. Door in 8 Klumni of an Yi, he were a null sword and Dunpuljet Otni the Tway tigers Yi. In an instant, the white tiger let out a piercing roar. But Xiao Nani wasn't finished. Extracting his sword, he landed a heavy blow on the tiger's neck. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 172. Saving people. The white tiger collapsed to the ground instantly. Xiao Nani, demonstrating his swift reflexes, drew a dagger and drove it directly into the white tiger's neck. Jiang Peihuan, holding her long whip tightly, didn't have time to react. The tiger was already dead. The two Jiang sisters stared in surprise at this scene, particularly Jiang Sijin, who had approached Jiang Peihuan. Her eyes widened as she exclaimed, "Elder sister, my future brother-in-law is incredibly powerful." Hearing the term brother-in-law, Xiao Nani, who was glancing in their direction, was filled with delight. He conveniently disregarded the future part. Looking at Jiang Sijin, Xiao Nani chuckled softly. This tiger's fur is quite plentiful. I'm considering making a scarf and a cloak for your elder sister. There should be some left over, I'll have someone make you a scarf and boots too. Upon hearing this, joy lit up Jiang Saijin's eyes. Looking at Xiao Nani, she hurriedly asked, "Really?"
Mm.
Seeing Xiao Nani nod, Jiang Sijin laughed lightly. Then, "Thank you, brother-in-law." "Sijin, don't shout nonsense." Upon hearing Jiang Sijin address Xiao Nani as her brother-in-law, Jiang Peihuan quickly intervened. Jiang Sijin stuck her tongue out but stayed silent. Won over by Jiang Saijin's charm, Xiao Nani quickly spoke. "There are many dangerous beasts in these mountains. Let's leave first." "All right, but what about this white tiger?" "Miss, leave the white tiger to me." At this moment, Han Feng rode in on a horse. Spotting the white tiger on the ground, his eyes lit up. He knew the tiger's skin was beyond his reach, but this white tiger was a treasure in its entirety. Who was that person on the back of Lightning? On their way back, Jiang Peihuan remembered the person who had kicked Jiang Sijin off of Lightning. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan bring this up, a hint of anger flashed in Jiang Saijin's eyes. Her name is Wang Ya. If it wasn't for her, one wouldn't have encountered that white tiger today. From Jiang Saijin's explanation, Jiang Peihuan finally understood what had transpired. The military training camp primarily consisted of mountain hiking and the collection of related tokens as a symbol of victory. It was a method to exercise both physical and mental strength. To avoid mishaps, they typically paired up, but were scored individually. Wang Ya was originally the most outstanding woman among the female soldiers, but after Jiang Sijin arrived, she took that position. This, along with the fact that Jiang Sijin was several years younger, filled her with resentment. During today's training, she even ignored Jiang Saijin's warnings in her pursuit of a higher score, venturing deep into the forest. "Elder sister, you don't know. That white tiger was initially chasing Wang Ya. One couldn't just stand by and watch her get mauled, so one intervened. But after saving her, she tried to kill me." By the end, Jiang Saijin's eyes were ablaze with fury. "Don't worry, we'll settle this score later." Initially, Jiang Peihuan thought that Wang Ya was someone placed by Xiao Juanhao. But from her conversation with Jiang Sijin, she learned that Wang Ya was actually Wang Ying's niece. When Wang Ying saw her niece ride out on Jiang Saijin's horse, she was simultaneously shocked and relieved. Relieved because her niece was safe, but shocked as Jiang Sijin might be in grave danger. "You're saying Jiang Sijin encountered a white tiger?"
Yes.
"I wanted to save her, but it was too late." Nonsense." Jiang Sijin, who was approaching with Jiang Peihuan, yelled furiously when she heard this. Hearing the outcry, everyone instinctively turned their gaze in that direction. "Jiang Sijin, you're all right, that's wonderful." Many of these female soldiers had a close relationship with Jiang Sijin. Considering her young age, many of them viewed her as a younger sister. When they saw her return unharmed, their eyes brimmed with surprise and joy. But this did not include Wang Ya. Upon seeing Jiang Sijin return safely, Wang Ya's eyes filled with confusion and fear. You, how is this possible?" "Oh, are you disappointed that one didn't die?" Jiang Sijin spoke coldly, walking up to Wang Ya. On the side, Wang Ying watched the scene with a hint of confusion in her eyes. Just as she was about to speak, she heard her niece's shriek. It turned out that Jiang Sijin had drawn her red whip, knocking Wang Ya off from the back of Lightning. Although Wang Ya was also trained in martial arts, she was average at best, and no match for Jiang Sijin. Upon seeing Jiang Sijin, Lightning approached and nuzzled its head against her. Observing this, Jiang Sijin patted its head, smiling. "Lightning, I'm fine now." "Jiang Sijin, how could you hit someone?" At this moment, a female soldier who was close to Wang Ya looked at Jiang Sijin with anger in her eyes. Hearing this, Jiang Sijin responded sternly, "Wang Ya wanted to kill me. Am I not allowed to defend myself?" What did you say?" "You're making things up. I didn't." Instinctively looking at her aunt Wang Ying, Wang Ya hurriedly denied the accusations when she saw the serious look on her aunt's face. However, Jiang Saijin's anger intensified when she heard Wang Ya's denial. "Wang Ya, you're a soldier, aren't you? Do you dare to deny your actions?" "I didn't do it, so one didn't." "Why would one admit to something one didn't?" Before Wang Ya could finish her words, a long sword swung past her eyes. She instinctively looked down, only to find her beautiful hair cut off completely. The one holding the sword was none other than Xiao Nani. Considering Wang Ying, Jiang Peihuan held herself back from reacting. But Xiao Nani, who was protective by nature, pulled out his sword instantly upon hearing Wang Ya's words. Now, his sword rested at Wang Ya's throat. If you deny it again, I will kill you. I saw you kick Si Jin off the horse with my own eyes. Please forgive her, Your Highness King Cheng. Upon seeing the murderous intent in Xiao Nanya's eyes, Wang Ying quickly knelt down to plead for mercy. Seeing Wang Ying on her knees, Xiao Nani spoke calmly. I heard you were also part of the Flying Feather Army, serving under First Madame Jiang?
Yes.
Since you serve First Madame Jiang, you should act with fairness and justice. Or are you planning to shield your niece? I dare not. Xiao Nanya's voice was soft, but every word felt like a slap on Wang Ying's face, causing her to break into a sweat. Hearing Wang Ying's reply, Xiao Nani nodded. Good that you dare not. The military has a law. Those who plot to kill others will be executed. Si Jin saved Wang Ya out of goodwill. But Wang Ya, instead of being grateful, kicked Si Jin off the horse in the face of danger. This is tantamount to attempted murder. Deputy General Wang, how do you intend to deal with Wang Ya? At this point, everyone had figured out Xiao Nanya's identity. Hearing his words, they all looked at Wang Ya with scorn. Under everyone's contemptuous gazes, Wang Ya was filled with anger, her eyes fixated on Jiang Si Jin. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 173. Teaching Wang Ya a lesson, Your Highness, King Cheng. This matter is indeed Wang Ya's fault. I didn't do anything wrong. Wang Ya, who was staring at Jiang Si Jin, interrupted her aunt before she could finish. With her eyes full of hatred for Jiang Si Jin, Wang Ya said coldly, the one who is wrong is not me. It's Jiang Si Jin. You were the one who wanted to kill me. Why am I at fault? Upon hearing these words, Jiang Si Jin looked at Wang Ya, her eyes filled with confusion. But Wang Ya's eyes were full of ridicule and disdain. Looking at Jiang Si Jin, she said coldly, I have been in the army for years, and you've just arrived a few months ago. Yet, you took away everything that was originally mine. Why? Just because you are the third young lady of the general's mansion, and because your mother is the leader of the Flying Feather Army? Jiang Si Jin, how am I worse than you? What right do you have to take everything from me? By the end of her statement, Wang Ya's eyes were full of tears. The soldiers who initially looked at her with contempt, their expressions changed significantly after hearing her words. However, Jiang Peihuan sneered. Hearing her laughter, everyone turned to look at her, but Jiang Peihuan only had eyes for Wang Ya. Taking a step forward and stopping within a step of Wang Ya, Jiang Peihuan said, You wanted to kill my sister? Is it really because she took everything that belonged to you? Or because you were jealous? I don't know what you're talking about. Do you really not know what I am talking about? Before Wang Yi could say anything, Jiang Peihuan continued, You've been in the army for many years. Wang Ying is your aunt. I assume she has devoted all her effort to you. But from what I can see, your martial arts skills are average and your strategy, given your intellect, must be mediocre too. In the army, strength is king. There are MO types of strength, martial arts and strategy. You don't have either, yet you aspire to sit on the throne? You are not upset because Si Jin took everything from you, but because you're jealous. You are jealous of my sister's status as the third young lady of the general's mansion, her martial arts talent, and her strategic mind in military matters. Am not. With each sentence from Jiang Peihuan, Wang Ya's face became more sullen. At the end, she couldn't hold back any longer. She yelled at Jiang Peihuan, her eyes full of tears. Seeing Wang Ya like this, Jiang Peihuan suddenly laughed. Looking at Wang Ya, she spoke softly. Since you say you're not, it'll give you a chance. I want use a weapon, and it'll let you use one hand. If you can beat me, it'll ask Si Jin to drop this matter today. How about that? Don't be arrogant. Enough talk. This is your only chance. Do you want it? Can I use a weapon?
Yes.
You'll fight with one hand?
Yes.
If I hurt you, Don't worry, if you can hurt me, that would be your own skill. Upon hearing this, Wang Ye couldn't resist any longer. She drew her sword and lunged at Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan sidestepped to avoid her. The crowd, seeing the two starting to fight, instinctively made room for them. Xiaonani, observing this scene, showed a faint smile. Jiang Xijin knew that her elder sister was skilled, but she couldn't help but show some worry. Wang Ye, wielding a sword, stood against Jiang Peihuan, who was unarmed with one hand held behind her back. Nevertheless, Jiang Peihuan managed to kick Wang Ye to the ground. Wang Ye slid 2 meters across the ground before coughing up blood. Yet, she picked up her long sword and charged again. Upon seeing her determination, a flash of surprise appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. The outcome was the same each time. After the third round, when Jiang Peihuan kicked Wang Ye to the ground, Wang Ye could no longer get up. Wang Ye glared at Jiang Peihuan, full of resentment. The hatred that had once been directed towards Jiang Xijin was now targeted at Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan walked over to Wang Ye and crouched beside her. Gazing at the woman lying on the ground, she spoke calmly. I bet you're thinking that if you had someone to guide you like I did, you would be better than me. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Wang Ye's eyes widened in surprise. Jiang Peihuan continued, in this world, talent is important, but so is hard work. My sister, Jiang Xijin, and I started training every day since we were 3. No matter how cold or hot it was, we never stopped. Besides martial arts, as daughters of a general, we had much more to learn. Meanwhile, all you had to learn in the military camp were martial arts and strategy. If you're not talented, you can still work hard. The most useless people in this world are those who lack talent, don't work hard, and still think highly of themselves. After saying this, Jiang Peihuan stood up. She didn't glance at Wang Ye again, but turned to Jiang Xijin. As your elder sister, they'll let you handle this matter. Whatever you decide, they'll respect your choice. Elder sister? Eldest miss? Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Wang Ying, who was standing nearby, looked anxious. She wanted to say something but hesitated. Jiang Xijin, upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, seemed confused. She was angry with Wang Ye, but only that. After a while, Jiang Xijin said to Jiang Peihuan, elder sister, no matter what decision I make, you'll agree with it? Then, let's put an end to today's matter. As soon as Jiang Peihuan nodded, Jiang Xijin announced her decision. Hearing this, everyone except Jiang Peihuan looked surprised, especially Wang Ye, who was lying on the ground. She had already resigned herself to death. Jiang Peihuan didn't say much, only turned to Jiang Xijin. You've made your decision? Yes, I have. Deputy General Wang, let's put today's matter to rest. Thank you, Mississippi. I will discipline Wang Ye strictly in the future. Gratitude filled Wang Ying's eyes, but Wang Ye, full of rage, glared at Jiang Xijin. Don't think that just because you spared me, they'll be grateful to you. I don't need your gratitude. Before Wang Ye could finish her sentence, Jiang Xijin interrupted her, her gaze steady. She said softly, I spared you because we are both soldiers. But in the future, if you harm anyone again, I will kill you. After speaking, Jiang Xijin turned away from Wang Ye and looked at Jiang Peihuan. Elder sister, I haven't been home for a long time. How about we go back and stay for a few days? There were holidays in the military, but Jiang Xijin had never taken one because she was always training. After seeing Jiang Peihuan's nod, the young girl happily climbed into the carriage. Jiang Peihuan glanced at Wang Ying and also got into the carriage. Follow current novels on topnovelfool.com. Chapter 174. King Chujiang Rebellion following them. Xiaonani also entered the carriage. As soon as the carriage started to move, Jiang Xijin leaned against Jiang Peihuan, incessantly complaining that Wang Ye is truly irritating. Then why did you let her go earlier? Elder sister, you've already taught her a valuable lesson. Let's just leave it at that. Remember, she is Deputy General Wang's niece. Deputy General Wang has been a faithful companion to our mother for countless years. We should respect her long-standing service to our mother. I didn't expect you to show such growth in just over a month. Upon hearing Jiang Sijin's words, a smile appeared in Jiang Paihuan's eyes. If this were the old Jiang Sijin, she wouldn't have thought so deeply, nor would she have been so considerate. The carriage became quiet. Looking down, Jiang Peihuan saw that Jiang Sijin had closed her eyes. Not long after, the sound of her steady breathing reached her ears. I didn't think you sisters were alike before, but now I find that your personalities are very similar. Sitting opposite Jiang Peihuan, Xiaonani glanced at the sleeping Jiang Sijin and spoke with a smile. Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan stroked Jiang Sijin's hair, then softly said, "When Sijin was born, our family was already affluent, but our parents didn't have much time to care for her. She essentially grew up following me. In the past, I only hoped that she could live peacefully in this life. But this is her life after all, and she should make her own choices." In her previous life, due to her actions, the entire Jiang family was exterminated, and Jiang Sijin met a tragic end. After her rebirth, she always hoped that Jiang Sijin could be a bit more defiant, but she forgot that Jiang Sijin, like her, was also very stubborn and resilient. The carriage leisurely headed towards the general's mansion. When the carriage stopped, Jiang Sijin opened her eyes. "Did you wake up?" Helping her to brush her long hair behind her ear, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly. Rubbing her eyes, Jiang Sijin nodded. When she turned her head, Jiang Sijin saw Xiaonani and unconsciously lowered her hand. "Is King Cheng still here?" "I prefer it when you call me brother-in-law." Upon hearing this, Jiang Sijin instinctively looked at Jiang Peihuan. Seeing Jiang Peihuan glaring at Xiaonani, she hastily opened the curtain. "Elder sister, I'm tired. I'm going in first." After saying that, Jiang Sijin rushed inside, leaving only Jiang Peihuan and Xiaonani in the carriage. After contemplating for a moment, Jiang Peihuan looked at the man opposite her and took the initiative to say, "It's getting late. One should head home, and you should go back soon too." With that, she prepared to leave the carriage, but her wrist was grabbed. Before Jiang Peihuan could react, she found herself sitting in Xiaonani's lap. When Xiaonani held her, Jiang Peihuan instinctively wanted to struggle, but heard the man's low voice, "Don't move." Hearing his voice, Jiang Peihuan involuntarily stopped struggling. Xiaonani rested his head on Jiang Peihuan's shoulder. However, the sound of hooves interrupted their moment, followed by a deep voice announcing, "Master, King Chujiang has staged a rebellion." Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan instantly sat upright from Xiaonani's arms. Simultaneously, Xiaonani drew back the carriage curtain. A secret guard stood outside, attired similarly to Han Feng. Seeing the curtain part, he repeated his news, "Master, the news has already reached the palace. The emperor has dispatched a messenger to the mansion, summoning you to the palace." "I understand." Upon hearing this, Xiaonani's face also changed. He glanced at Jiang Peihuan, only to find her eyes filled with shock. Assuming that Jiang Peihuan was frightened, Xiaonani reassured her gently, "It's all right, don't worry. Return home first. I must make a trip to the palace." Jiang Peihuan nodded and disembarked from the carriage. As she watched Xiaonani's carriage depart, Jiang Peihuan's expression immediately shifted. In her previous life, there was no rebellion by King Chujiang. Could it be due to her presence that this life is diverging from her past one? Jiang Peihuan's eyes were full of worry and agitation. She hastily entered the mansion, where she found the rest of the Jiang family assembled. For Jiang Hong had also received the news of King Chujiang's rebellion. In the main hall, "Father, Mother." On seeing Jiang Peihuan, Jiang Hong and his wife gave a nod. Noticing her anxious face, they assumed she had learned about King Chujiang's rebellion. Witnessing Jiang Hong's concerned face, Jiang Peihuan couldn't resist asking, "Father, what exactly happened with King Chujiang's rebellion?" For years, King Chujiang has been gradually expanding his territorial reach. At first, the emperor ignored it, but as King Chujiang's actions grew bolder, the emperor sent King Cheng to investigate. King Chujiang has long harbored rebellious intentions. This move by the emperor sparked off the rebellion. Hearing this, worry filled Jiang Paihuan's face. She looked at Jiang Hong and continued, "Father, what is the emperor's stance on this? The war in the Qi kingdom just ended, and the national treasury is exhausted. Naturally, the emperor would prefer to avoid another conflict." While Jiang Hong's words were tactful, Jiang Peihuan understood the implication. Emperor Qi Ming desired peace. Contemplating this, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but frown. Emperor Qi Ming had been a warrior in his youth, but after a few years on the throne, he became increasingly peace-loving. However, thinking of Xiao Nani, Jiang Paihuan's furrowed brows relaxed a bit. That man would certainly not seek peace. Inside the imperial palace. Imperial brother, I volunteer to lead the troops and bring King Chujiang's head to you. Xiao Nani had just entered the Qianqing palace and immediately addressed Emperor Qi Ming on the throne. Hearing this, Emperor Qi Ming's heart skipped a beat. Looking at Xiao Nani, he couldn't help but say, "The war just ended. If we mobilize now, we will face a severe shortage of provisions. Imperial brother, no matter how scarce the supplies, this battle must be fought. King Chujiang has already rebelled. If we do not react, other territorial kings might follow, the consequences of which are unimaginable." Emperor Qi Ming had no desire for war, but upon hearing Xiao Nanya's statement, his eyes revealed some conflict. At that moment, a gentle voice sounded, "Father, I think we should carefully consider this matter." Seeing Emperor Qi Ming's furrowed brows, Xiao Juanhao stepped forward and softly spoke. On receiving the news of King Chujiang's rebellion, Emperor Qi Ming had all the princes enter the palace. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Emperor Qi Ming nodded. "You make a good point. Is Prince Qing's idea of long-term planning to seek peace?" Just as Emperor Qi Ming finished speaking, Xiao Nani turned to Xiao Juanhao. As he spoke, a hint of mockery filled Xiao Nanya's eyes. Seeing this, Xiao Juanhao clenched his fist tightly. After a moment, he finally spoke in a low voice. "Whether to fight or seek peace, both require long-term planning." Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.